Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
All kids out of the pool for Adult Swim. All kids out.
Lego Lord of the Rings Balrog raised eyebrows for what some fans say is an unfortunate pose. I see it. I see it. Oh, I see it. It's taking a piss on Gandalf.
You shall not!
Pee!
Before you go, one question.
Yes?
Where in the galaxy is Sanusi?
Show us your tits and I'll tell you.
I think I've died and gone straight to honker heaven. Boobs are amazing.
Hello, everybody. Hail and howdy. Welcome to the Daily Dive, the Double Ds, where you, the audience, are the engineers in this train, and I am simply in the caboose, feeling every bump in the road. I hope everybody's having a good Wednesday. I technically got enough sleep. I guess I'm still dealing with the sleep debt. I'm still feeling a little bit tired every day. And I'm just trying to catch up. Just a man trying to catch up on sleep. Anyway, we got a good one today. I think we've got a good one because it is Warhammer Wednesdays. Yeah, that stupid song's in my head because, all right, it's not because of yesterday. I hadn't thought about it at all until today because I woke up and I checked everything. Yeah, those I want to be ninja people. Yeah, they claim me like I said they would. Those dicks claim me. So yeah, the I want to be ninja claimed me for their stupid song. So fuck those guys. Anyway, but it is Warhammer Wednesday. We got a good one today. We're going to look a little bit at what Gamescom had to offer from yesterday. I have a couple of game trailers I want to look at, one which is appropriate for Warhammer Wednesday. And I do want to make fun of somebody who I ticked off right before we went live this morning. I don't really farm for X blocks anymore because it's not a game anymore as much as it used to be. Especially because even if somebody blocks you, you can still see them. They can see you. It's not the game it used to be. But when I get a good one, I still like it. So I'm going to show you one that I got just a little while ago. I wasn't even trying for the block. I was just trying to I just wanted to see if I get a reaction out of this loser, and I did instantly. So look at that. And then, of course, it is Warhammer Wednesdays. So I'm sure Kel asked me, how much do I want to suffer today? Man, when you guys put it like that, it does strike fear in my heart. I wonder if I have a limit. I do wonder if I have a limit and one day you guys will hit the limit and I will just collapse into a gibbering mess because I can't handle it anymore. I wonder. We'll see. We'll find out. And then, of course, as usual, we'll go over the news because the rules are as follows. They are the same as they have been for the past 4 months. $5 to order an Adam rant on just about anything within usually the realm of entertainment, pop culture, or just something really stupid. We've gone into some stupid things. $10 to rent my time for 30 minutes to play a video game. I'm locked into the never-ending loop of party animals right now. It's never going to go away until I stop it myself. Also, $10 to ask me a simple question. Adam, how do you feel about this? Adam, what do you think about that? For a hot take, instant thought, usually a discussion between us. We'll go down rabbit holes together. It could be serious or silly, but we can have fun with that together. $15 to have an insta take on an article that I will show you during the news segment, or one you may have found and think, man, I want this dumbass to react to this without thinking. Let's go for it. And then $20 to watch a video, and $30 to have me watch an episode of television or a movie. and then I review it live on stream right here. We're doing that tomorrow with what's it called? Hang on, what's it called? I have it right here. A Requiem for a Dream, thanks to Kel. It's supposed to hurt me deeply and possibly change my thoughts on Jennifer Connelly. I think I know what it is, too. I think I know what it is. I believe I've seen somebody talk about this in the distant past. Still, I'll be watching that. I'll probably watch it some point tonight, maybe tomorrow morning before the show if I'm up early enough, depending on when I do it. And we will do Chat Made Me Watch This reviews for tomorrow. So that's how we're going to do it today. What are we going to do? Westhammer. It will okay. Yeah, I mean, as long as he's not on screen, I think I can handle him. I think I can handle him as long as he's not on screen. Because I look at him and I want to punch him in the face. Hail, good sir, Algrim the Strong. All right, so I mentioned this. So let's make fun of somebody. Want to make fun of somebody? Let's make fun of somebody. All right, so as I said, when I first joined X Twitter, when it was still Twitter, I was told don't take it seriously. Do not take it seriously. Just have fun with it. Treat it like a game. And I've done that. The entire time I treat it like a game. I do not take X seriously when I interact and then I do stuff. I get annoyed by shit and we use it for fodder for stuff like this, but I don't really take X seriously. But some people really do. They really, really take X seriously. And my timeline is a mess because of how I interact. It doesn't necessarily show me things I like. It shows me the things I interact with. And this one was funny to me. This one is fun. This one was funny. So I found this just about, I would say, an hour ago. About an hour ago. Yeah, an hour ago. Yeah, an hour ago. I found this. This genius right here. Let me just adjust it slightly. This genius right here. Cheering that Superman 2025, James Gunn's Superman, is almost at $600 million. That it's somehow F1, I don't know. And he's claiming, I predicted this. I'm going to get there. And I see somebody like this who's so, it's going to get there. And I do what I do. I troll. And I simply said, you do realize Superman still hasn't made a single cent of profit, right? That it won't make any actual net profit, right? Even by their fake metrics. Or are you just a brain-rotting moron who thinks big-looking numbers mean success? So I did this. And you notice there is no reply here, but he did reply to me because here it was right here. Do you not understand this post is about me on the verge of nailing a crazy smart prediction versus your Superman hate and on Loser Boy? I triggered him into an all-caps Spurg within 3 minutes. Look, right, you can see right there. Within 3 minutes of my comment, I triggered him into an all-capsing Spurg, and he blocked me instantly. I was in the midst of replying to him that, I guess you answered my question. You are a brain-rotting moron. And he blocked me in the middle of it because this, and then noticed right here, the reply is gone. He deleted the reply because he's a coward. So I don't usually I don't play my block game anymore. I really don't. But man, this one made me smile. Because I was basically going to tell him, yeah, and I predicted it was going to make between $550 and $650 million, and I'm going to be right. And it's still a failure. But he blocked me. So this is the mentality of what we've been talking about for the past few weeks of these people who make this movie about everything to them. And it's so important that he gets it right, not realizing he's still failing. The movie's still failing. And all I got to do is mention how it fails, and we get this right here. We get this. So I love it. I wasn't even trying, and I caused a crazy weirdo nutbag to spurg at me, calling me Superman hate and on Loser Boy. One, I'm not anonymous. I'm very clearly who I am. I'm not hiding myself. That's my YouTube channel. I show my face. You guys do know my real name. I'm not anonymous, but they're so hangy. This guy needs a Snickers. He needs a Snickers. So I love it. I love it. It just proves my point every time that these people are whacked out weirdos, and it makes me smile. It makes me smile. It is Wednesday. It's Wednesday because I'm Wednesday because of the ninja thing. Stop. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. I'm going to stop now. So that was my funny for there. Anyway, all right. So how are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this? All right. So Kel has selected my pain. Apparently, he has selected my pain. Let me just get it. Let me get it set up now, so that we don't have to worry about it later. Okay. Today's slog. This one actually came up on my timeline on my YouTube homepage. Papa Nurgle. Okay. Wow, that is a long one. Ooh, boy. Okay. So we'll be talking about Papa Nurgle today. Papa Nurgle. All right. Okay, I've had my fun. So let's get into the news. Let's talk the news. Papa Nurgle loves me in a way I don't want to be loved. Papa Nurgle is a bad touch. Because not only is it a bad touch, it's an automatic STD. Papa Nurgle is a walking STD. All right? He's a walking plague rot. Anyway, let's dive into the news. Let's have some fun with the news. Let me refresh everything because it has been about 20 minutes since I set these up. And let's see what we got on the day. Okay. Yes, thank you. I'm going to keep my ad blocker up, you son of a bitch. All right. We start, as always, with the Variety. Guillermo del Toro unpacks Frankenstein, the 30-year journey to make it, getting a Netflix theatrical release, and why he axed the plan for 2 movies. I've lost a little bit of respect for Guillermo for things he said lately. He's still a fantastic director and a fantastic writer. Really good at what he does. But I don't give 2 silly shits about Frankenstein. I just don't. I don't care about Frankenstein. Do not. Harry Potter TV show cast guide, who's who in Hogwarts. It doesn't matter. It's not coming out for another year and a half. I don't care. I'll care when it comes out. How the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives broke through the Emmy clutter. No comment. Sony sets PlayStation 5 price increase effective August 21st. All right. I'm going to look at this because I have a feeling it's I bet it's just Europeans. Let's see who is it for. I'm just curious. New pricing is as follows. PS5 up $50. Everything is up $50 apparently. Now, is it okay? So it is US. Well, hey, listen, they're gonna raise prices. It sucks they're raising the prices, but that's them being greedy. And fuck greed. Greed is good, but also greed hurts you. Listen, I already own my PS5. I got it. Paid for it. It's completely mine. So, sucks if you haven't got one. You have to pay more. But you know what? That's the economy of the world. Kind of sucks right now. Kind of sucks. And this is the fallout of a lot of shit that's going on for a lot of years. People might want to blame Trump's tariffs, but no, this is the fallout of a lot of bad economic policies, both in this country and around the world, for many years now. And it's going to happen. Things shouldn't cost that much. Just that simple. Things should not cost that much. Don't care about music. Survivor 49. All right, I'm going to ask this. Have any of you ever actually watched Survivor? Because I haven't. I've never watched Survivor in all the god-awful years it's been on. Has anybody ever watched Survivor? I mean, I know people obviously do, but I'm asking. I haven't. I don't want to. It's all fake. LMGI Awards honors Kevin Costner and top location pros. Giuseppe Tornatore, Doc, the King of Kashmir, Brunello Cucinelli, Boarded by 29 Palms. I just wanted to say Giuseppe. Gotta remember Giuseppe. Giuseppe. Alex Gibney's Jigsaw names Robert Kessel, executive VP scripted content. Sure. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Static. Everybody wants to blame the immediate. These things, it's a mounting issue. These things don't just happen overnight. It's years of mounting problems. We still suffer supply chain issues to this day. There are things I used to be able to get in certain stores that aren't there anymore because of the supply chain stuff that went down. So it's always blame shit, blame that, but never the truth. No, we haven't. There are still, I just said there are still supply chain issue problems. Still problems. Anime Manga International Awards set for launch at Anime Expo LA. I could care less about awards because things I think that shouldn't get awards are probably going to get awards because I don't like the same things everybody else does. Dakota Johnson on Splitsville co-stars playing unhappy characters, open relationships, and possibly fake penis. Well, if we're talking about Pedro Pascal, it probably is a fake penis because his doesn't work for women, and you're a woman. NPR's All Things Considered host Ari Shapiro leaving amid Trump funding cuts. Oh, God. Thank you. I never thought I would live to see the day that NPR got gutted and shut down. You got to understand how many years I had to suffer that shit. It's how many years we suffered that garbage. Excellent. Paris Hilton performs Paris and Pup's theme song in Show's first trailer. I feel like there are so many things wrong with that. The fact that she's even still a thing. RuPaul's Drag Race renewed for season 18 to MTV along with All Stars and Untucked. Untucked. Does that mean what I think it means? Does that mean what I think it means? Untucked. I feel like it means what I think it means. All right. Anything else here? DirecTV? No. Mayor of Kingstown season 4 trailer. One of these days, I might watch Mayor of Kingstown. One of these days. If I'm desperate enough for watching something. If I'm out of things to watch completely. I mean, I did a deep dive into looking for. I finished the current show I was watching for anime, or I'm up to date, and I have to wait for the season to end because that's how I like to watch it. So I ran out of stuff to watch, and I'm not ready to rewatch certain old series. So I did a very deep dive looking for things I might have missed over the years, and I found a couple of things, possibly one that I had seen but I don't remember it. So I found a few things that'll hopefully will float me through the next month and a half until the current season ends. Because all I want to do is watch anime right now. It's all I want to do. I just want to watch anime. It's what brings me joy. Baby Reindeer's Richard Gadd shows off his muscles in first look at new HBO and BBC series Half Man. Okay. I'm not gay, but okay. What we do in Shadowstar, Harvey Guillen to receive Icon Award, Risado Festival. Anybody ever watch that show? I was never interested in that show. I just was never interested in What We Do in Shadows. I just was not. Don't care about Oscar Isaac and some dude talking. Emily in Paris sets season 5 release date, drops first look as Emily heads to Venice. Well, that's not Paris. That's Italy. AI becomes Hollywood's new secret weapon in talent negotiations. The data doesn't lie. Okay, I've heard about this. I've seen people tweeting about this, about how it's focusing in on this chick in a particular movie, when in fact, apparently she was not a good part of the movie, and it just proves these algorithmic things of what people are looking at do not necessarily mean that people want to see more of it. More often than not, it's for a mocking purpose. I mean, remember when YouTube introduced the ability to see where people looked at something the most on a video? 9 times out of 10, yes, it was boobs, but then also it just happened to be things we were mocking. It's not necessarily something we're interested in. It's something we might be mocking. So, don't trust that bullshit. But they're never gonna have actually good analytics. They're going to use bullshit to try and propagate the propaganda. Orlando Bloom on the next Pirates of the Caribbean. Do you bring in a female lead that replicates Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow? I don't know. I know. No, you don't. You don't do that. Not at all. That's a bad idea. Netflix partners with YouTuber Mark Robber, Jimmy Kimmel for family competition series. I see Jimmy Kimmel and I automatically think, no. That nobody cares about Jimmy Kimmel. And that's Jimmy Kimmel running for the hills, trying to now get a stake in streaming because he's done too. Pathetic. Is that important? Morning Show season 4. Jennifer Aniston gets paint thrown on her. Well, is she naked? I'd care if she was naked. She still looks good. Romantasy author Kylie Snow signs with Verve, announces multi-book deal with Hachette. This right here is what's wrong with modern publishing. Current day publishing, current day anything. That this is the shit they're pushing. Garbage. Complete and total garbage. That looks like music stuff I don't care about. Dominic West, Sienna Miller to star in legal thriller series Ward, HBO and Sky, season 2 already greenlit. Legal thriller series War. Not necessarily interested, but I'm sure it will. I'm sure if it's done well, it is HBO. I'm sure it might land. We'll find out. Charlie XCX. I don't care about that dumb chick. IQIE Wee Chinese video streamer swings to loss as Q2 revenues drop 1%. I don't know how to comment on that. I don't. Especially, only thing I can say is if it's China based, that means it's getting the Great Firewall is all these people are going to get. So I'm not sure. I guess it means that's bad. Of course, it's bad news, but that's all they're getting over there. The twisted tale of Amanda Knox is effectively outraging, but could push further past headlines. Is that the chick who set up her friend to die? I'm trying to remember that. Is that chick? That she got off scot-free, I remember correctly. New Archie comics movie in the works. Spider-Verse duo Phil Lord and Chris are producing. You know what they've got here? That Tom King is writing it. That's right, Tom King, who ruined Batman and is going to be responsible for the source material for the upcoming shit Supergirl movie. Tom King. Boy, enjoy that one. Jeez. Wait, why is somebody in a wheelchair? God, I hate everything now. Really, I do. It's all fucking virtue signaling. Too late, Frank. Too late. More Bollywood stuff. Don't care. Let's see what else we got here. Thailand Select. Don't care. Yahoo Sports. Don't care. Don't care. Kristen Dunst would star in Minecraft 2 to make a pile of cash. Maybe I could just make a movie where I don't lose money. Maybe stay away from politically charged bullshit. Huh? I know. Poor Kirsten Dunst. Her career evaporated. Haley Atwell, who has 2 great assets working for her. And Rupert Everett joins Disney Plus's Rivals as season 2 guest stars. Ouch. Is that all you can get now? Work for Disney, Haley? That kind of sucks. You have so much going for you, Haley Atwell. So much going for you. Don't care. The Witcher actor Bjorn Hilnir Haraldsson, also a co-showrunner on Blackport, preps Icelandic romantic tragedy Clara with Lamb, co-writer Sjón. Okay. Good luck. Fleabag. Anything Fleabag, I hope you bomb. Phoebe Waller-Crap. Parasite producer Baronson ENA partners with Indonesian horror master Joko Anwar. I'm sure. Anything else here? No, we're kind of done. Let's move on to IGN. All right. This is going to be all mostly Gamescom stuff, Fallout. But take a deep breath. Calm myself. Feel the hiccups coming on. Towley takes a trip to DC in first trailer for this week's new South Park episode. Man, they really are quintupling down on going after Trump. So I listen again. South Park makes it fair game. They go after all this stuff, but they didn't go this hard in 4 years of producing anything concerning the Biden administration. Then they're going this hard on Trump. And I've said it before, they don't like Trump, but man, shift gears, dudes. Shift gears. There's so much other shit you've been making fun of. Peak sells 10 million copies. Peak, the game that they're playing on Saturday Night Co-op sometimes that I have no interest in, which means it might be in my future. Last of Us showrunner says season 3 will be longer than season 2. More bang for the buck. You mean the season 2 that everybody dipped out of? That people ran away from as the longer it went on for its whole 6 episodes? So they say it's going to be longer. You put out a 6-episode season. 1 episode more makes it longer. Shut up. Fuck you. Fuck all your Last of Us shit. Don't care. Already talked about the PlayStation 5 price rising. That sucks for people who don't have one. Yoshi P says Final Fantasy 14s, there may be good news in the future about FF14 on a Switch too. Yeah, there was the latest FF14 patch update really early. Like we talked about that a little while ago that they've accelerated that. It's only been a year since Dawn Trail, and they're already on 7.3. That's fast. I wish I was playing it. I wish I was enjoying it, but nobody wants to play with me. Okay. There's also a Monster Hunter collab with FF14. I saw that. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 Legacy of the Forge DLC gets September release date as Warhorse teases a wealth of new customization options. I don't care. I will say brutal facts. I didn't like the first game. I've tried to play the first game 3 times. I've tried getting into it. And I just can never get into it. I do not like it. I do not like it. I don't like anything in that game. I really don't. Really do not like it. So I wasn't going to get the second one. The ROG Xbox Ally handheld is coming in October. Sure. Microsoft announces ROG Xbox Ally X release date, but holds off on pricing details despite leaks. It needs more time to figure the macroeconomic impact. This motherfucker is going to be at least $300. It's going to be at least $300. No shitting. Where is Microsoft's first party X handheld? Okay, just talking about that. Hyperkin's DualSense style Xbox controller is coming in October. But wait a minute. I was told for so long that the Xbox controller was peak. That it was worse than that. It was the best thing ever. And that this controller is terrible. Personally, I prefer the DualSense. I do not like it when the other analogs up here. I do not like the way my hand, I don't like that kind of movement. I just don't. I prefer the analog right next to each other. To me, for my brain, it works better. I personally do not really like Xbox controllers, but I'm not going to run around and cry that this is the best controller ever. It's just the one I like. But this just is, I find that strange that they're going to provide DualSense controllers for the Xbox. I find that interesting. Shenmue 3 gets enhanced. Oh, this is from yesterday. Wow. So they really have a lot today. Wow. They have like nothing today. So this is all from yesterday when we had Gamescom last night. Okay. So Shenmue 3, Ghost of Yotei trailer confirms free Legends multiplayer. Okay. All right. Question for people that were playing Ghost of Tsushima when it was hot, not late to the party like I was because I was waiting for my PS5 and waiting for a price cut. Did anybody play the Ghost of Tsushima multiplayer, the co-op? Did anybody do that? Was that a thing? Because they pushed it real hard. Did anybody play it? You liked it, Biggles? You were into it? Okay. All right. I'm just asking because I didn't know. You played more of the story. Okay. All right. Okay. You answered my question. Answer my question. I never hear anybody ever talk about the Ghost multiplayer. But you played it. Okay. All right. Answer my question. Answer my question. Now, I think the multiplayer for Yote is going to be very dependent on if people are actually going to be into Yote, because that still has a lot of baggage with it right now. So we'll have to find out on that. Black Myth Wukong developer, Game Science announced a sequel, Black Myth Zhongqi. I didn't play Wukong, wasn't really interested. But I know everybody's excited about this. Here's the funny thing. So we're going to be talking about stuff today where the stuff I want to talk coming out of Gamescom is the stuff that nobody's talking about. People were more, the stuff that everybody is really interested about with the Gamescom is stuff I wasn't interested in, at least from yesterday. I mean, we got a couple more days of this stuff, but the initial announcements, the stuff everybody's excited about are not things I'm really excited about, is the thing. So, while all respect in the world for Black Myth Wukong, I'm glad people are getting a sequel because everybody liked that first game. I'm not a Resident Evil guy, so I'm not excited about Resident Evil Requiem. I'm just not a Resident Evil guy, so I have no opinion. So I'm not excited about that. Monster Hunter Wilds is getting a Final Fantasy XIV collaboration, which does kind of interest me because I will be joining some of the guys in, not for streaming, but private play for Monster Hunter Wilds in the near future. So I am excited to see that because I do love my Final Fantasy collaboration stuff. World of Warcraft gets another expansion. Nobody gives a fuck. Fuck wow. 21 years after the original Vampire Masquerade, Bloodlines 2 is finally has a release date, but I have heard they are paywalling some stuff already. So that's not a good look. Silent Hill F Gamescom trailer. I don't care about Silent Hill. Death by Scrolling, a new roguelike RPG from Ron Gilbert, where apparently the scroll will kill you. Indiana Jones Great Circle coming to Switch 2. We got a Fallout Season 2 trailer. If you guys want me to check out the trailer, you know the drill. You know the drill. Oh, look, here's what I'm going to talk about. Here's what we're going to talk about today for my segment. We're going to check out Lords of the Fallen 2. And for Warhammer Wednesday, Warhammer 40K Dawn of War 4. So that's what we're going to look at. From Software, Sekiro gets an anime. Only via Crunchyroll. Motherfucker, that just means Crunchyroll is the distributor. From Software, who owns Katakawa, will produce and make it and air it in Japan. Crunchyroll is just a distributor, you dumb fucks. You dumb fucks. It's not exclusive to Crunchyroll. I could get it without going to Crunchyroll, you dumb assholes. Lego Batman. Okay, a lot of people are excited for the Lego Batman. I don't like Lego games. I'm not interested in them. But everybody's excited. Have your fun. I'm just not into it. Hollow Knight. This Silk Fang. I'm going to keep asking why people give a shit. I'm not going to talk about this because I am not versed enough, but I know everybody is mass like projectile shitting all over Call of Duty Black Ops 7. I know that's what's going on. Everybody's destroying that. They are annihilating it. So there you go. That's that. Yeah. That's what I saw. The 2 clans for Bloodlines are being paywalled, which is kind of lame. Paywall and shit. All right, let's go to Park Bliss. Is the Superman Jor-El message real? Digital release contradicts James Gunn's interview. Wow, James Gunn is a liar. Or they're retconning it. I mean, what's going on? I said they aren't going to retcon it. And if it's on a digital release, that's not... They have to retcon it in a movie or actively in a show for it to be retconned. So this is more bullshit. It's all bullshit. I think I already heard it debunked though, if I'm not mistaken. Disney World Dining Reservation is no longer functioning inside the app as alcohol beverage place woes continue. Paramount stock price erupts after signing exclusive UFC deal, which we said it probably would. Former World of Warcraft team. Let's stop sucking the dick of Grums, can we? Because Grums doesn't do anything except repost other people's material. Grums doesn't do... look at me. I'm actively saying it now. Grums is nothing. Grums reposts other people's work all day long on social media. He doesn't actually do anything. Can we stop pretending he's an actual figure of fighting for our pop culture rights? Can we stop this, please? What does he actually do besides not finish his game? Does he actually do anything besides repost other people's work and investigations and commentaries? I'm just putting that out there. Time to stop pretending this guy actually does anything. He is the definition of a grift, a true grift. All right, that's the news. I'm sticking to it. Whatever you guys want, you know what we're doing. Okay, so now here's I want to talk. Before we get to Papa Nurgle, Kel for $40 doubled because this shit is long and kind of tedious, but filled with poop nuggets allure. That's a really good way to put it, I guess. So before we get to Papa Nurgle, I want to react. I haven't watched them yet. I want to react to a couple of trailers. First, let's go with this one since we'll get closer to Warhammer Wednesday. All right, so I played the last Lords of the Fallen game. I streamed it. It is in the members section of this channel. If you have membership, you can rewatch those streams. We played, we beat it. I remember when I was playing it, Static asked me, what did you think of the ending? And I said the ending was kind of shit because that final boss was dog shit. Wasn't a final boss. You run around a room dodging zombies. Until you like throw shit at I don't know. It was messed up. It was not a great final boss. After a game that was generally enjoyable to play for a Souls-like, where I was having some success for the most part, that was kind of a letdown of a final fight. It wasn't anything. But we have Lords of the Fallen 2. Now, the guys who make Lords of the Fallen, they've been very good about marketing their product. They've lowered the price of the current one. They're adding stuff for free, this and that. They're very good at marketing. And this was a surprise today. I wasn't aware that we were going to get a Lords of the Fallen 2. I wasn't aware. So now I might be in for this. I haven't looked at it. I haven't watched the trailer yet. And when we're done, we'll go check the breakdown over on Niche Gamer on what they got. So let's check it out. Lords of the Fallen 2 official announcement trailer. Let's go. Hold on. Let me start over. I didn't full screen it completely. There we go. Okay, let's start over. All right, I know those are cinematics, but I'm already interested. Oh, that's that good soundtrack that I like for this stuff. Oh, no audio? Did I shared audio? Did I hit the wrong one? I boomered it. I think I hit I hit the wrong one. Thank you, Static. Thank you. I hit the wrong one. Thank you. Okay. We'll start it over again. Here we go. Yeah, I know I boomered it. I know I boomered it. All right, I know. Okay, here we go.
Our gods have forsaken us.
Now, as I was saying, I love it that they have that particular there's that particular track. You can hear it beneath it. That particular track, I love that kind of track. And yeah, because we killed all your gods in the last game.
For fear of the coming darkness consumes all but you, lamp bearer. Something.
All right, so Static says friends can play with you for free. Co-op action. Hell yeah. Co-op action. They're learning from the other Souls-like games. Give us the co-op. Hell yeah.
Stirs within you something ancient, powerful, hungry. So I ask you, will you harness this darkness within and deliver unto our so-called lords. Retribution!
And this is all cinematic, of course. I was hoping for maybe a little gameplay, but I'm still digging it. I'm still digging it.
But should you fall, the world...
Oh, shit. That's some eldritch being shit right there. That's some eldritch being shit. Oh, damn.
falls with you.
So we're fighting eldritch beings.
2. Wish list now.
2026. Maybe in a lead up. I'd have to re-download it because I'd have to get it and I'd have to remember how to play it properly. Maybe in the lead up. Maybe that might be a good warm up for the new one. That'd probably be a good warm up. I'd be down for that as a good warm up for the new one. Because I'm even though this was purely cinematics, I like the idea of where we're going here. So now let me switch over real quick and let's go over Niche Gamer. Let's go over Niche Gamer and check out what they have to say for it. What exactly we're getting with this now. So back on Niche Gamer. Here's the rundown on long-awaited reboot sequel plus its first trailer. Lords of Fallen 2 is a dark fantasy action RPG where brutal Souls-like combat meets a world splitting at its core. Battle against the darkness in an epic adventure across Shattered Kingdom. One world, two realms, no mercy. Realm by realm, nation after nation, the umbral darkness consumed all in her path. Now, centuries later, only one kingdom remains, a sacred land shrouded by the ancient force, or so it was. Stolen by the gods themselves, mankind is left forsaken, defenseless against the darkness unless its force is restored. The shadow of death will devour all, but how do you kill an immortal? A hero must rise for a god to fall. Okay, here we got features. Explore a broken world. Journey across a vast, war-torn kingdom crumbling from within as the realms of living and dead begin to bleed into one. From the moonlit citadels to time-ravaged temples, tread carefully, for each step forward may well be your last. Similar to the last one, where we're going to be jumping back and forth with the lamp and stuff like that. Master tactical combat. Engage in intense Souls-like battles where every strike counts thanks to a fast, fluid, and aggressive combat system. Whether steel or sorcery, melee or range, experiment with countless builds to overcome each unique enemy encounter before delivering an arena-drenching execution. Arena-drenching execution. Interesting. Now, right here, when I see this right here, I see, okay, it looks like they're going to want us to have multiple builds on this one, which I can understand. I may not particularly like, but I can understand. I mean, let's be honest. You guys have seen me play enough games. I like my dual wield. I usually find a way to power through with my dual wield builds. But I wonder now if it's going to actively fight you to not let you just bulldoze through the game with a single build, where it might make you branch out and make a sorcery build, make a range build, make a two-handed build. I don't like using two-handed weapons. I just don't. It's not my style of combat. So I wonder if that's what that means there. And I really like the arena-drenching execution. Glorious cinematic final kill. I like the idea of that. Battle monstrous bosses, confront colossal abominations forged in a world without hope and void of mercy. Each distinct showdown will prove a brutal test of skill, grit, and unyielding will. Though aid is at hand, should you seek it. All right, now that will be interesting because in the first one, the bosses weren't necessarily gigantic. We had very few huge bosses. They were mostly of normal level size fights. So if we're going to introduce colossal abominations, I'm down with that. And that will, again, forced me to come up with new ideas. Harness the Umbral. A bearer of the Umbral lamp, you have the ability to pass between the realms of the living and the dead, each with its own pathways, treasures, and of course, nightmare creatures. But even greater, darker powers await you on this journey. And there it is. So, and it doesn't mention here, but Static did mention that it does have co-op. We'll have co-op in it for free. That'll make it, honestly, I think that'll make it more fun. Because about these games, especially if it's telling you have to have multiple builds, I think that leads into the, hey, let's have a compromise here. You want to stick with your build, bring in a friend that has a different build so you can play off each other. So I like the idea of that. So that, I mean, the trailer was just a cinematic trailer. It was just a cinematic trailer. So it doesn't actually tell us about the gameplay. But if the gameplay is anything to go by the first one, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm feeling pretty good about it, and I'm definitely thinking about this one now. It's in there. Okay, let's give this a try. And it says 2026. My guess, probably first quarter. I don't know. I didn't see anything about that. Yeah. So I think these guys are doing well. Because it seems, as they say here, they are listening to their customers. They're listening to the people who are playing the game, and they've done everything they can to make it an enjoyable experience. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be a good one. I'm not a super Souls-like guy, but since I played the first one, or at least the updated version of the first one, because I know the one that I played was not the first one. It was kind of a continuation of the first one, yet not a direct sequel. I'm definitely down with this, especially if we're going up against Eldritch shit. That piques my interest. It definitely does. So Lords of the Fallen 2, early 2026. Stay tuned. I will likely stream this. I think we'll have a good time with this one. I do. Okay, let's go back. And now, though, it is Warhammer Wednesday time. Okay, so Kel's already poo-pooing it. Wait, that's the wrong one. Kel's already poo-pooing this. He's already poo-pooing it. But let's take a look at it. We've got the trailer, and then we've got another niche gamer article. So Warhammer 40K, Dawn of War 4 official trailer, this time with sound. Let's take a look at this one.
We have fought the enemies of humanity across 1,000 worlds. No respite, no remorse, no mercy. We are the wrath of the Emperor, his angels of death. But the
Necrons
Imperium lies broken.
Orcs
Scattered and reeling.
Wargs
Rise to drag us down, and the galaxy has been torn asunder. On the world of Kronos, we make our stand. We are the Blood Ravens. There is no victory to claim here. Only vengeance to enact. Whilst even one of us lives, we fight. For only in death.
Now again, these are all cinematics. It's not actual gameplay.
Does duty end?
Oh, here we go. Okay, gameplay. Now, obviously, RTS game. I've never played any of the Dawn of War games. I never have. So here we go. RTS game. Clear. This is gameplay footage. Looks like your standard RTS stuff with a Warhammer 40K flavor. Got drop pods. Yeah. like the feel of this. I like the feel of it. But it is RTS stuff. I haven't played an RTS game in a lifetime. So I'm not sure if I'm really into it. I like what I'm seeing, but I'm not sure if I'm into it. Coming 2026. Now, Kel has already said Dawn of War 4, where you only get to choose from 4 factions. No Eldar, no Dark Eldar, no Imperial Guard, no Chaos Space Marines or Demons, no Tau. Get ready for microtransactions galore. So that's what you think. You think they're going to microtransaction us to get other factions. Anyway, so let's drop this for a second here as I switch over. Let's go to the Niche Gamer article and see the breakdown and the details of the game, what they got for us. So let's bring it back up. Let's get rid of that. Bring up Warhammer 40K Dawn of War. Publisher Deep Silver, developer of King Art Games, have announced 40K Dawn of War 4, a new entry strategy series based on the popular tabletop franchise. Only for PC, so it's only a PC game, no console, no cross-platform release. Here's the rundown of the game. Return to the RTS series roots with deeply satisfying strategy gameplay. Take command of 4 unique Warhammer 40K factions, including the Adeptus Mechanicus in their series debut. Okay, we've covered the Adeptus Mechanicus in previous lore videos. Fight through 70-plus epic campaign missions. That's a lot. As well as replayable Last Stand, skirmish, and multiplayer modes. Features. Command 4 unique playable factions. Take charge of 4 unique Warhammer 40K factions. Space Marines, Orcs, Necrons, and the Adeptus Mechanicus in their Dawn of War debut. Each faction grants you total control of a unique collection of commanders, units, buildings, and gameplay mechanics that dramatically alter the feel and flow of Warhammer 40K's endless brutal warfare. Fight through 70-plus epic campaign missions, co-written by the legendary Black Library author John French. I would need one of you guys to tell me if that's a good or bad thing. Dawn of War 4's epic story represents the biggest Dawn of War saga to date. A solo or co-op play command each co-op play. Command each faction through its own dedicated campaign, supported by spectacular CGI intros and fully animated cutscenes. Classic Dawn of War gameplay returns. The series turns to its roots with classic Dawn of War gameplay and a combat system designed to bring Warhammer 40K's bloodthirsty combat to life like never before. Grow your force, build your base of operations, standard RTS stuff. Get your resources, build your shit, upgrade, blah, blah, blah. And savor an expanded sync kill system that delivers an unprecedented degree of melee combat detail. We saw it. Pretty detailed. Saw a lot of squishy bodies exploding. Endless ways to wage war. Enjoy an endlessly replayable collection of game modes, including the return of fan favorite Last Stand. Fight highly configurable AI battles and skirmish, or take on the world in 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3 multiplayer. Hey, we can play, we can fight each other. Wherever you're waging war, use the painter tool to stamp your own unique personality on your fighting force, as well as the option to use existing factions from Warhammer 40K universe. So, all right. Okay, so if it's only, even though it might be only 4 armies to choose from, I feel like if we all want to play this, I feel like if some of you guys want to co-op this thing, this could be a lot of fun for Saturday night co-op or just Saturday night multiplayer. This sounds like it could be fun. I've never played one of these, but I'm old school RTS. One RTS is the same as the other. Just a few different gameplay mechanics here and there. And I could always say, I'll be orcs. I'll be greenskins, no problem. Happy to be greenskins. Very happy to do that. Now, it does suck there's no chaos in there. There should be chaos. But I guess if you want, you could always... no, you can't do it because you can't pretend to be chaos or space marines because then where are your demon hordes? Where are your mutations? Stuff like that. So, no one played 3. Well, 4, they're making a big push on 4. Making a big push on 4 here. So, I never even heard of this. Honestly, I've never heard of this series until now, recently. Only recently have I heard of this. So, Dawn of War 4, 2026. I am For the purposes of playing with the boys, I'm interested. I'd love a little co-op action, but at the same time, what would be better than all of us than some 3v3 matches? What would be some free-for-all 3v3 matches? That would be fun. Manage the salt that will incur when we do this. So I hope this is good. I want, for the sake of the franchise and for the sake of wanting good Warhammer games, I would like this to be good. And also the fact that it's a chance to play with the boys, play some games, some more co-op options, some more competitive playing against each other options. So I'm hoping this is good. I'm hoping this is good. I may not be the first one to bin because also since it is PC only, I don't know if my computer's gonna be able to run this thing, but we'll find out. We'll find out. There's time. There's time. Maybe miracles will happen. I'll be able to afford a new rig. Miracles can happen. They do. But here we go. Dawn of War. I think this has potential. We saw some gameplay. It has potential, and I'm ready for it if it's good. I might not be the person to test it, but I'm willing to listen to somebody who has. Okay. Warhammer 40K Dawn of War. I feel like my body is ready. I want my body to be ready. All right, there we go. Okay. All right. There we go. I hope it's good. For the sake alone, something else for us to play. I want it to be good. I want it to be good. Individual units. Perhaps. They talk about commanders in it, so I'm guessing if they wanted to have that real feel of the tabletop, a commander will be their own unit, a general, a war boss, stuff like that. So, if 3 sucked, 3 sucked. This is 4. It's a new beast. We'll see what happens. So I hope it's good. I do hope it's good. I hope it's good. Just for the simple fact that it would give us something else to play. It would give us something else to play for co-op and for multiplayer. And very rarely are there things where we can play against each other. And that would be good. I think I'd like that. Big ass map, build your army. We all have different play styles. I could be greenskins and be happy. It'd be fun. It'd be fun. So we'll find out. We'll find out next year. I'm ready to find out. But now, let me check Stream Elements. Got anything else? Nope. Just today's video. They charge you for individual units. I hope they don't if they're going to microtransaction this shit, then it's all going to be an automatic fail. The era of microtransactions should be ending. Nobody wants that shit anymore. People just want to enjoy the games. Give us what we pay for. All right. But what has been paid for is from Kel for $40 to have us take a look at Papa Nurgle. Papa Nurgle and the Bad Touch. So here we go. Let's get some Nurgle lore from, what's this guy called again? Wes Hammer. I found him very annoying visibly, but if he's going to be off screen, Mike, through it. Now, Kel says this one's going to be a mixed bag. So let's get through this. Let's begin this. Let's get her done.
The Warhammer 40K universe is a brutal, uncaring hellscape, and that's what makes it so much fun to read about. This is a setting where towering war engines clash like gods, and demons tear open reality to drag entire worlds into the warp. Death and decay are constants. Millions die each day, and their souls end up getting devoured by unspeakable, nameless horrors. Even those who somehow manage to avoid battle aren't spared. The average hive worker lives and dies as a nameless cog in the Imperium's endless war machine, overworked, forgotten, and denied even the hope of a peaceful afterlife, as there's nothing beyond the veil but ravenous, hungry demons. That is to say, in 40K, there's no such thing as a happy ending. Or is there? What if I was to tell you the good news, that there exists an omnipotent entity just beyond the veil of reality who sees the plight of mortals and is moved to tears? That he is a benevolent and joyful deity who seeks to take away humanity's suffering and replace it with joy. A god not of judgment or cruelty, but of empathy. One that lingers in the aftermath of tragedy, whispering comfort to the broken and the forgotten. Sounds a little too good to be true, right? Like, it's a little out of place for a setting like 40K. Well, here's the catch.
All right.
Although everything I
don't believe him, and it sounds like it is going to be painful then.
just said is technically true, the entity we're talking about today is also the chaos god of plagues, entropy, death, and disease, a bringer of rot and despair on a galactic scale. He is a harbinger of extinction, whose demonic hordes and festering cults spread like a malignant cancer across the stars, drowning entire worlds in oceans of bile, pox, and plague. He is the end of all things, a sentient rot that seeks to tear reality apart at the seams. His name is Nurgle, and he loves you. But who is Nurgle really? Where did he come from, and what does he want? If his worshippers end up turning into disgusting abominations, subject to enough body horror to make David Cronenberg blush, then why on earth would anyone choose to worship him? What is the Garden of Nurgle actually like, and just how powerful is he and his legions? Well, in this video, we're going to be talking about all that and a whole lot more, as there's a lot to cover when it comes to Papa Nurgle. But before we dive headfirst into the Grimdark, a quick shout out to this video's sponsor. I'll be honest with you, I've never been the best when it comes to actually budgeting, and I definitely have a bad habit of signing up for a bunch of free trials and forgetting to cancel them. Honestly, even when I do remember to cancel, a lot of the sites out there nowadays make it practically impossible to actually do so. But with the help of today's sponsor, Rocket Money, I was able to identify all of those unwanted subscriptions and clear them all out with practically no effort. After connecting my
we
bank
can't,
account to
Biggles.
the app,
It's
Rocket
the
Money
price
was
we
able to
pay for doing
identify
this. We
all
have
of
to
my
let them do their ad
subscriptions
read.
and put them into a single, easy to understand list. That way, I was able to keep the ones that I still wanted and cancel all of the rest. But canceling subscriptions isn't all Rocket Money does, not even close. It's an easy-to-use all-in-one app that helps you lower your bills and manage your money better. You can use it to create a customized budget in seconds, keep track of where your money is going at all times, and identify top spending categories. Rocket Money automatically analyzes your accounts to find
the way
the
I
best
see
times to
it,
save,
if I'm going to
which
react to
helps
somebody's
you reach your
video and they're
goals
putting their ad
faster.
read in,
All you gotta do
I
is
gotta
set a
let them do
goal,
their ad
choose how
read.
often to save,
gotta let
and
them do
watch
it.
your money grow. Rocket Money has already canceled over $500 million in subscriptions for its users, and they can save up to $740 a year when they use all of its features. So if you want to take control of your finances today and join the over 5 million other users that are using Rocket Money to save more and spend less, then go to rocketmoney.com/Weshammer or click on the link in the description to get started for free. You can unlock even more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/Weshammer
I don't believe for a second he actually uses
Big
this
thanks to
shit.
Rocket Money for sponsoring this video.
That's why if I get sponsors, I'm gonna.
If
try
there's
and actually
one
use
constant to be
something I can
found in
actually talk about.
existence, it is decay. All things, no matter how grand or glorious, inevitably bow to entropy. None of the ruinous powers understand this better than Nurgle. He is the maggot that feasts on the corpse.
Just as a reminder, let's review what we just saw there. If it'll move back, come on, move. God damn it! Come on. No. Oh, why are you doing this? I want that frame.
If there's one constant to be found in existence, it is decay. All things, no matter how grand or glorious, inevitably bow to entropy. None of the ruinous.
All right, so Khorne, Tzeentch, Slaanesh, Nurgle, Papa Nurgle. We're talking Papa Nurgle today.
Powers understand this better than Nurgle.
Now, of course, that's a little odd because I read up once because I used all four of them for a story once to make it a cameo in a story that I was working on, and Khorne appears usually as in an armored form. He would appear on one of his avatars would be an armored form. Tzeentch is not going to generally appear as the bull. That's one of the greater demons, and Slaanesh would be like a genderless being of immense beauty, and Nurgle would be a sore-ridden pile of slop. But yeah, so these are not these are more like greater demon representations of them, not necessarily the four gods.
He is the maggot that feasts on the corpse, the crow that picks at the carrion, the fly that circles the doomed. From his garden deep within the realm of chaos, the Lord of Contagion gleefully concocts new diseases, surrounded by carrion flowers swaying in breezes of polluted smog, while horrid parasites fight for the scraps of decayed flesh within the acrid mud. From his beautiful landscape of corruption, his demonic messengers spill forth into real space, eager to spread the fruits of.
All right, now I'm just wondering, this thing's an hour and a half. Outside of the origin of Nurgle, what his forces are like, and what he does to somebody, and then his overall presence in the continuing wars that are going on. I feel like Kel's right. How's that? That feels like maybe 45 minutes or an hour, not an hour and a half. There's going to be some serious stretching going on here, I feel like.
Their master's labor, blessing the galaxy in endless plagues and converting ever more mortals to the path of rot. Across space and time, he has gone by many names: bringer of despair, master of corruption, the Lord of all. Yet to his worshippers, he is simply the grandfather. Truly, Nurgle treasures his devotees. He takes the outcast and the desperate, those left to survive the cruel hardships of life, and offers them reprieve. Even as Nurgle's plagues see their bodies distend, deadened to pain, and toughened with layers of rancid flesh, their minds are open so they may embrace the ruin done unto them. What once brought misery now invokes joy. Where before they would have looked upon their disease-swollen, rotting forms with horror, now they appreciate the true genius of Nurgle's endeavors. In exchange, Nurgle asks only that his gifts be spread to the
Be spread. It's not like spreading the good word. No, it's like literally, I'm going to spray you with the rot, infest you.
tolling of dolorous bells and the buzz of a million flies do his children march to war. Bloated Chaos Space Marines trudge alongside maudlin plague bearers and gurgling great unclean ones, each a shard of the grandfather's vile essence, unleashed upon reality for the express purpose of spreading sickness and blight. Where they tread, natural life writhes in torment, shriveling into befouled forms more pleasing to Nurgle's eye. Wherever hope threatens to blossom, the Plague God's children are ready to snuff it out with rusted blade and festering sorcery. To fight them is to face an enemy that never wavers, that saps your strength through its mere presence, that spreads its...
My dude, get to your... All right, he is just taking way too long here with this intro. It's like, dude, get to it already. We get it. Papa Nurgle gives you the sticky bad touch everywhere and spreads it.
Poison to the land itself. Against such horror, even the strongest wills eventually shatter, the stoutest hearts succumbing to despair. Truly, there are few in the galaxy more foul than the servants of Nurgle, be they mortal or demon. His nightmarish armies embody the true horror of mortality.
He basically already said this. He's saying the same thing 2 minutes later.
Not the cold sterility of the grave, nor the vibrance of unchecked life, but a ghoulish parody of both, shot through with the warping power of chaos. Their befouled souls advancing slowly but surely, like the creeping hand of death itself. The unholy stench the plague legions emit is enough to drive even the most veteran of warriors to madness. Their disease-mottled flesh bursts forth from corroded armor as pulsating growths, gangrenous swellings, and necrotic blubber. Thick-bodied maggots wriggle within pus-dripping sores, tattered muscles hang from ripe lesions, and rancid entrails burst forth from distended bellies to drag through the muck and...
He just wants to describe these things in disgusting detail. That's all he wants to do. Get to the point. We should be talking about the different minions of Nurgle by now. We should already be learning about the different levels of minion. Talk about the Chaos Marines. Talk about his version of Chaos Space Marines. Talk about his demonic summons. Talk about a great unclean one.
Grime of battlefields across the stars. Everything about them is a horror that few armies are disciplined enough to endure. Yet the worst thing about facing them is not their terrifying appearance or the feelings of dread they conjure, but the paradoxical glee their madness seems to invoke in them. Cracked, inflamed lips stretch into rictus grins of pestilent joy as they spread their corrupting salvation to the unworthy. Those blessed by the grandfather are each a vector of disease, an incubator for maladies, poxes, and demonic parasites that attack body and soul alike with hideous fervor. In their presence, blood curdles into thick soup within veins, while limbs waste to spindles, barely capable of lifting a blade or bolter. If their enemies are somehow still able to fight in their presence, it does little to no good.
All right, that is a cool picture of a Great Unclean One versus a Changer of Ways. That's a pretty cool picture there.
For the body of a plague champion is one all but immune to pain. Each can withstand dozens of blows that would kill any other fighter, whilst a single scrape from their weeping, rust-encrusted swords or slime-dripping flails is enough to seal one's doom. In the end, all that stands against the hordes of Nurgle will be reduced to breeding grounds for even more terrible poxes. In battle, the plague cults chant praise to their dark master, rejoicing in the opportunity to deliver fetid salvation to the unbelievers. Corrupted sorcerers wielding plague-wreathed staffs.
I want to know the lore! You've been talking for 4 minutes with flowery, plague-infested language. Get to the fucking lore!
And thrice-damned relics billow forth swirling miasmas comprised of the raw essence of Nurgle's garden, necrotic winds that slough flesh from bone and spread all manner of unspeakable foulness. Hideous, gibbering swarms of Nurglings roll over each other in waves of infectious glee, like a frenzied school of diseased piranhas. They swarm into trenches and broken hab-blocks, giggling to themselves as they gnaw flesh from bone with infectious delight. Behind them shamble hordes of plague bearers, the tallymen of the Plague Father, bloated with disease and devotion, each one a walking epidemic, swinging rusted blades slick with filth and pus, their milky eyes counting every wound and every death, all tallied and offered to their god as sacred tribute. Above, the skies churn with the buzzing of plague drones, rotflies mounted by demonic riders, vomiting streams of bile as they dive upon the foe. Their wings spread plague with every beat, their lances plunging through armor and bone with equal ease. From the fog of decay stride the titanic great unclean ones, each a mountain of rancid flesh that shakes the earth with every step. Vegetation and flesh.
Hold on. You're not summoning more than that. There's not going to be more than one greater demon per army. There's no way somebody's putting on multiple great unclean ones. That's like the peak of your army right there. You're not going to have multiple great unclean ones. Do you realize how much energy that fucking takes? There's only going to be one great unclean one per army. Come on.
Like withering before their rancid glory. This pestilent parade is contagion made manifest, a holy procession of putrescence that breeds rot across the stars. They will never stop. They will never tire. They will never rest until all have embraced the will of Grandfather Nurgle. This is not a war of conquest. It is a celebration of collapse. To Nurgle's followers, every festering wound is a hymn, every ruined planet a shrine. With gurgling voices raised in praise, they sing the words that herald the end. Let the galaxy rot.
Okay, the birth of Nurgle.
In order to understand who and what Nurgle is and why his philosophy is so intoxicating to the broken mortals living within the Imperium, we need to start at the beginning and establish a few key concepts. We need to know a bit about Nurgle's history and the nature of chaos. Now, as these are pretty surface level concepts designed first and foremost for newcomers that I've talked about at length in other videos, I'm just going to give you the abridged version here. The setting of Warhammer 40k is divided into two universes that are intrinsically linked and said to be a direct reflection of each other. We have the physical universe and the warp, the materium and the immaterium. One a realm of tangible substance and the other intangible, of physical matter and spiritual and psychic energy, including emotions, thoughts, ideas, and beliefs. Though many powerful entities dwell within the warp, four tower above the rest in terms of scale, power, and influence. I speak, of course, of the Chaos Gods. There's Khorne, the god of bloodshed, rage,
that's a proper representation.
Tzeentch, the lord of treachery, lies, and sorcery. Slaanesh, the god of pain, pleasure, and excess. And of course, the subject of today's video, Nurgle, the lord of plagues, pestilence, and disease. Though the Chaos Gods traditionally view mortals as little more than pawns to be used and discarded in their great game, Nurgle stands apart from his siblings as he demonstrates a paternal affection for his children. The blessings his followers receive come in the form of sickening, grotesque mutations and infections. They believe every oozing sore is a mark of his love. Now, each of the gods is associated with a sacred number that routinely appears wherever their influence is strong. and is used by their followers and their rituals. Nurgle's sacred number is 7, though he also has a strong affinity for the number 3. Although all 4 of the gods are considered siblings and each represent an equally important aspect of chaos, this isn't a happy family. And for the most part, they all kind of hate each other. In all honesty, the gods war amongst each other far more than they do against the Imperium or any other war
I mean,
faction
that's the
matter.
thing.
Each of them is a
They despise each other. I mean, Slaanesh hides in the deepest, darkest hole because he's afraid that Khorne's going to get his hands on him one day. Slaanesh hides constantly. So yeah, that is one of the more interesting facts about the Chaos Gods: the fact that they will happily destroy each other. I mean, they would happily, each one would happily eliminate the other one and take over their spot in the Chaos Void. They would happily do it. They hate them. They hate each other that much.
Player in the great game, an eternal conflict for control of both reality and unreality. Now, although Khorne is said to be an ascendancy and thus is considered the most powerful god,
Blood for the Blood God. Another skull for the throne.
at this precise moment in the timeline, each of the gods has held this position at one point in time or another. There are times when Nurgle is at the apex of his power, when plagues run rampant across the galaxy, when his legions multiply and his garden swells with unholy life to the point of bursting, often spilling out into real space through warp rifts and tears in reality. As is his nature, though, Nurgle's reign of dominance always comes to an inevitable end. Just like how a disease must run its course, so too does Nurgle's power wax and wane, starting off weak at the point of infection before ramping up in intensity, inevitably plateauing and then plummeting back down as he enters remission. This cycle of growth and decay makes Nurgle easily the most predictable god when it comes to his eras of dominance. But Wes, I hear you asking, where did Nurgle actually come from? How long has this great game been going on? Well, unfortunately, unlike with Slaanesh, who was formed around 12,000 years ago, when the excess of the Eldar species hit a breaking point, we don't have an equivalent time period for when Nurgle first awoke. Now, some of the older lore links his awakening to the plagues that swept across Europe in our own history, but I personally believe this is no longer considered canon, if it ever was, and is simply a holdover from Warhammer Fantasy's earliest lore. So with that said, it's true that we don't have an exact date that we can point to as the true birth of Nurgle, but that's not really as important as you might think, at least in metaphysical terms. Time is a construct of the physical. The laws that govern our universe.
I mean, that's the thing. Time doesn't exist in the Chaos Void and the Chaos War. Time doesn't exist. He's taking this guy likes to use a lot of big words. He's attempting alliteration a lot, and he's trying to make it sound. He's trying to make himself sound maybe more intelligent than he really is. Because let's be honest, he's just reading lore. He's just reading lore and trying to make it sound flowery and pretty. And yeah, you want to make it entertaining. And I mean, the music selection isn't bad. The music's actually a good addition here. But he's taking way too long on each thing right now.
Hold no authority over the warp and its denizens. The gods, in many respects, have always and never existed simultaneously. They are always both at their strongest and weakest point. At the exact same moment in time, they exist both at the point of their birth and death, as well as every other moment in between. As far as he and his siblings are concerned, Nurgle has always been. If you're curious how a chaos god is formed, and for that matter, how souls in the afterlife work in 40K, I actually have a video that goes much more in depth on that and gets into the real nitty-gritty behind the scenes stuff. I'll link it down in the comments if you're curious, but for right now, here's the super abridged version. People often call the warp the Sea of Souls, but it's more accurate to think of it as an ocean of raw psychic energy made up of the fragments of souls, emotions, beliefs, memories, thoughts, and echoes of an individual's life. When a person dies, their soul almost never stays whole. It breaks apart into its constituent parts.
I feel like this is a completely unnecessary part of this video right here. This is not a necessary part of the video. It's like he's plugging a previous video to go in and get you to watch that video. I feel like this is a segment he shouldn't need to be talking about.
Which are pulled in different directions along the Immaterium's tides. Now, over time, similar fragments begin to cluster together. Fear with fear, rage with rage, hope with hope, etc., as well as all of the other emotions that are at least vaguely related. When it comes to Nurgle's birth, it would have been emotions tied to fear, despair, disease,
Yeah, he mentioned them, Kel. He did mention them.
and death. As these spiritual masses continue to grow, the spiritual gravity that they assert on the warp increases as well, and thus they're able to absorb energy at an exponentially increasing rate. Some grow so vast and dense that they actually gain sentience. Now, at this point, they're able to grow even faster by consciously manipulating the Imperium's tides, rather than just waiting for all that energy to come to them. This is how a Chaos God is born, a deity not created by a single powerful soul, but by countless echoes of mortal emotion coalescing into something vast, eternal, and hungry. But if that's true, then why are the Chaos Gods considered the strongest? Why don't we have gods associated with comparatively pleasant emotions? Well, the short answer is that since the grimdark future is one comprised of endless war, where billions die every day and everyone hates each other, negative emotions like rage, fear, desperation, and envy are the most common within the Immaterium, and thus the entities that feed off of them are the most powerful. But believe it or not, it didn't always used to be this way. There was a time tens of millions of years ago where, at least from our perspective, the Chaos Gods did not exist. War had not spread to every corner of the galaxy, and the warp was comparatively calm. As the two universes are reflections of each other, when there's balance in one, so too is there balance in the other. Now, sure, even all the way back then, those ancient spacefaring civilizations that inhabited the Milky Way certainly had their own struggles, but it was nothing compared to what we see on the daily in the 41st and 42nd millennium. But as is history, that unfortunately wouldn't last, and everything would go tits up with the onset of the war in heaven, wherein the Necrons and their vampiric star gods, the Catan, became locked in a galaxy-spanning war with the Old Ones and their creations. As the centuries rolled on, and the stars ran red with blood in the physical universe, so too did the unprecedented tidal wave of negative emotions flood the Immaterium, as trillions of souls were sent shrieking into the afterlife. Thus,
Yeah, good point, Biggles. He's giving a history lesson that's unnecessary. I mean, great. Here's another really good shot of the representation of the Chaos Gods right here. But just tell us about Nurgle. You already said there's no point in time where we could pin down Nurgle. But why are we getting a history on the creation of the Chaos Gods? Why? The other gods are not, unless you're talking about his relationship with each one, it's not important to the conversation. Not important. I agree.
providing the raw material from which the Chaos Gods would eventually emerge. Okay, so now that we know what Nurgle is in metaphysical terms, let's talk about his philosophy. Now, to many, the idea of willingly worshipping the god of decay seems incomprehensible. Nurgle is filth, rot, and ruin made manifest, a force that spreads disease, despair, and death across the galaxy. At a primeval level, humanity is hardwired to fear and reject disease, yet these people run towards it with open arms. You'd think the mere existence of the Inquisition, let alone the fact that the followers of Nurgle look like anthropomorphic piles of would be enough to scare them off. Yet, with every year that passes, more and more turn to the grandfather's embrace, not out of ignorance or coercion, but from a place of genuine faith. So, what the hell is actually going on here? Are these people insane or are they just stupid?
Yes.
Now, whether the Imperium is just as evil as everybody else in this franchise or not is a video in and of itself, and a debate for another day. But regardless of what side of that argument you fall on, I think we can all agree that life for the average human civilian living within the Imperium is not great. Most are born into endless toil, spending their entire lives working in suffocating hive cities or decaying manufactorums, barely clinging to survival. Disease, starvation, and violence are commonplace.
Oh my God, you've already talked about this. You've already covered this. Why are you repeating yourself?
And compassion is a luxury the Imperium simply cannot afford. Men live and die for nothing, only for others to come and proselytize on their graves. With no hope of escape, no promise of peace, and death the only certainty, Nurgle offers something the Imperium simply cannot, and that's relief. From birth, the message that the Emperor is the one true God of humanity, that he protects his faithful, is hammered into every citizen's mind. With an incredibly difficult life to live and little to no agency of their own destiny, faith in the Emperor brings them and their families at least a modicum of comfort. However, every human being has their limit. After decades of indentured servitude in dangerous working conditions.
All right, I'm upping this guy to 1.5, or we're up on the speed on here. We got up to speed because he's just taking too damn long.
All to live in filth and squalor in the depths of an incomprehensibly overpopulated hive city, resentment for one's lot in life will begin to creep in. Their faith will be pushed to a breaking point. Many will see the lie of the Imperium for what it is, that they are nothing more than a resource to be spent and cast aside, that their god is either a myth invented by the ecclesiarchy in order to control them, or worse, he is indifferent towards the suffering of his flock. To the starving hive worker, the plague-stricken refugee, or the soldier dying alone in the mud, Nurgle is not a monster. He is a comforter. From the shadows, he whispers promises of an end to pain, a release from fear, and the warm, overwhelming embrace of belonging. His cults often grow in the shadows of crisis, pandemics, famine, war zone, where the roots of hopelessness run their deepest. When institutions fail, when the mantra of the Emperor protects loses all meaning, the embrace of the grandfather is the only form of salvation many will ever know. Now, when it comes to the other chaos gods, those that would inevitably pledge themselves to their service often do so out of selfish ambition. Khorne worshippers desire the strength to take what they want by force. The followers of Tzeentch lust for knowledge and sorcery to alter their own destinies. And Slaanesh desire to experience life in its most extreme form. Devotion to Nurgle, by contrast, often begins with a simple plea for mercy. Those who feel forgotten, cast aside, broken by life, and abandoned by those they pledge their lives to are drawn to the god who does not demand strength or purity, only acceptance. And once accepted, they will never be alone again. Nurgle loves all his followers equally, even
How
as they
many
rot. His
times
blessings
do you
are
have to
hideous,
tell
but
us
they bring
this?
vitality, endurance, and unnatural strength. The wounds no longer hurt. The fear fades away. Hunger becomes a memory. And where once there was loneliness, now there is the laughter of Nurglings and the sickening warmth of a community that welcomes all. To truly embrace Nurgle is to accept disease. It is to welcome foulness into your body and soul, a test that many may not have willfully chosen, and far more will fail. Many will curse his name. Yet some blessed mortals will look beyond the putrescence and see the decay for what it truly is, a gift from the Lord of all. This gift, regardless of the form it ends up taking, opens eyes even as they liquefy. It simultaneously atrophies the leg muscles of its recipient and gives them the strength to march towards greater purpose.
Oh my God, he just wants to keep repeating how grotesque each worshiper of Nurgle becomes. That's all he wants to keep doing.
Is Nurgle's great ambition to speed this universe towards its end by eroding the foundations of reality, much as a disease can erode the spirits and bodies of those infected. Through his careful and ceaseless experimentations, begun within his wondrous garden and then unleashed throughout the galaxy, the pillars that support the framework of existence are slowly but surely weakened, and there will come a time when they collapse entirely, and the universe will begin a massive transformation. Now, of course, not every cultist.
No, Francois, it's not AI. It's the dude. I've sped it up. I've sped it up.
Joins out of desperation. For some, Nurgle represents liberation from the illusion of control.
This guy is real, and he's very annoying.
Disease proves that death comes to all, and in this inevitability, his followers see a kind of divine order. Entropy is not a failure of the universe, but its true state. To serve Nurgle is to accept this truth, and in doing so, to transcend it. When discussing the philosophy behind a Nurgle cult, despair often takes center stage, but there's a common misconception here, that Nurgle removes despair from his followers and replaces it with joy. That's not exactly what's happening. Nurgle doesn't take despair away, he teaches his followers to find joy within it. Hope. The emotion of hope in this worldview is a lie, a comforting illusion that denies the truth of entropy and decay. Ironically, because hope is a lie, hope ultimately feeds despair. Through Nurgle's teachings, his followers come to embrace despair not as a curse, but as a natural, inevitable part of existence. And in that surrender, they discover something twisted but sincere, a kind of joy born from acceptance. By following the teachings of Nurgle, a heretic who faithfully embraces despair will find purpose in nihilism. What I'm trying to say is that the religion of plague in 40K is kind of the equivalent of somebody taking the black pill. Nurgle reminds his faithful that the great cycle of life, death,
Did he really make a black pill comparison? That's a bad comparison. Black pill is born out of, it goes to rage to apathy. This is not apathy.
and rebirth are all
Bad
intrinsically
comparison.
linked. To
Bad
face the dawn
comparison.
is to await the dusk and eventually suffer the night. The one inescapable truth of the universe is that all that begins must so too end. There is nothing in creation that does not eventually decay, be it a galaxy-spanning civilization or a single human body seated upon a golden throne. The fact that all living things will eventually die has haunted mortal existence since our predecessors first crawled out of the primordial ooze. Most fear it, resist it, and suffer to delay it. But in this struggle lies the essence of Nurgle's appeal.
Oh man, don't show me some gay Nurgle love right there. Jesus, man.
He is bold.
No, I think this guy just likes to hear his own voice, honestly. And I think he's stretching it out because he thinks it'll get more ads and shit like that. I mean, I think he wrote this shit just because he thinks he's really smart.
Both the rot and the resilience, the decay and the desperate will to endure. Where there is life, there is decay, and where there is decay, there is Nurgle. The followers of Nurgle acknowledge the unfortunate reality that mortals are inherently repulsed by rot and disease, for if this was not the case, more would certainly be accepting of his truth. But for many, they simply cannot comprehend that the rotting of a limb or the expulsion of their own entrails is somehow a blessing. Now, despite his grotesque form, Nurgle is said to be brimming with vitality, and thus his mortal followers also share his enthusiasm. They eagerly spread the gift of disease, not out of malice, but out of devotion. They offer an escape from fear and pain, a twisted mercy in exchange for corruption. No soul is too small, no world too grand. All are worthy of his attention. Every infection, every death is lovingly tallied, for as all life crumbles, Nurgle's power grows.
Okay, this should be interesting.
Well, all four of the Chaos Gods and their cults.
And as I mentioned earlier, each of the Chaos Gods, each one hates another one specifically. We know, as I said, Khorne hates Slaanesh the most, and now Nurgle and Tzeentch hate each other the most. So this should be interesting.
Stand in opposition to one another in various ways. Few rivalries are as deeply rooted or philosophically hostile as the hatred between Nurgle and Tzeentch. Nurgle sees his sibling Slaanesh as misguided in their pursuits, but at the end of the day, at least they're living life to the fullest, while Khorne's endless slaughter leaves a sea of corpses to feed microbial life. But Tzeentch? Nurgle absolutely despises him. Though forces comprised both of worshippers and demons from each of the gods have occasionally fought side by side under the banner of Chaos Undivided, such alliances are rare and almost always short-lived. Joint campaigns between Nurgle and Tzeentch, however, are far less common, for their very natures are fundamentally incompatible with one another. Tzeentch is the god of change, ambition, treacheries, lies, and most damning of all, hope. He embodies the constant striving to become more, to escape fate and bend destiny in one's favor. His followers are sorcerers, schemers, politicians, rebels, and pot stirrers, individuals that believe through willpower, knowledge, and sorcery they can transform their reality. To follow in the teachings of the Changer of Ways, one must believe there is a solution to suffering, that the path of overcoming it will lead to salvation. The Plague God's children see this heretical ideology for the lie that it is. Unlike Tzeentch, Nurgle doesn't promise an escape, he promises acceptance. Tzeentch urges his followers to claw their way out of despair, while Nurgle teaches his to find joy within it. Tzeentch sees stagnation as failure, but Nurgle views it as the end of struggle. The Changer of Ways whispers false promises of what could be, but the wise grandfather speaks only truths about what must be. To Nurgle, true peace is not found in fighting against or overcoming hardship, but by embracing it. Now, of course, Nurgle acknowledges the existence of change as it's part of the cycle, but it's not random or unknowable as the Changer claims. It is chained by the laws of nature. The cycle cannot be bargained with, it cannot be altered, and it cannot be circumvented. It can only be slowed, accelerated, or momentarily paused. True enlightenment can only come once one submits to decay, and thus finds meaning in inevitability. So what I mean to say is these radically conflicting viewpoints make them not just rival siblings, but ideological enemies in the most extreme sense. One is entropy and the unmaking of all things, whereas the other is evolution and the reshaping of them. One
All right, right there, the segment should have stopped. Move on to the next segment. Right there. You've said everything you need to say, but you still got another at least minute or two.
Sees despair as the final truth, the other a hurdle to be overcome. To Nurgle, Tzeentch's constant hunger is a delusion, a self-inflicted torment rooted in denial of the inevitable. The followers of Tzeentch believe the future is unwritten, whereas those dedicated to the Plague Lord know that it is already decomposing. The teachings of Tzeentch are inherently selfish and center around the individual, whereas Nurgle's philosophy is about community. It's individualism versus collectivism. A Tzeentchian cult is full of backstabbers attempting to one-up each other and claw their way to the top. A Plague cult, on the other hand, is a loving community, a family bound by collective acceptance of despair.
Spreading their touch and their love with each other. Yeah.
Now, despite the optics here, this isn't really a debate about optimism versus pessimism. It's about enlightenment. Their irreconcilable truths fuel a hatred that stretches across both warp and reality alike. And due to their eternal nature, they're probably not going to come to any kind of long-lasting agreements anytime soon.
All right, Plague cults. If anybody's watching us when we play 40K Darktide, we are constantly fighting Plague cults on that hive world. Constantly. That's what we do. And it gets a little boring just fighting Plague cults.
Okay, so let's focus a little bit more on the plague cults and what they actually look like. Now, if we're looking at the artwork of 40k, and specifically anything involving chaos, the Chaos Space Marines tend to take center stage. And as the Death Guard are the Chaos Space Marine Legion associated with the Grandfather, they are our primary lens that we get to view him through. But in the grand scheme of the galaxy, the Death Guard are but a tiny portion of the macro-scale cult of Nurgle. Now, I'll talk about them a little bit throughout this video where I feel it's important to do so, but for the most part, I'm going to leave them out of this one, as I've already done a full deep dive on the Sons of Mortarion. It'll be linked in the description and in the end screen if you want to check it out after you finish.
I see this dude and I just want to punch him in the face. I just want to punch him in the face. Also, because I really do hate the putting yourself on your thumbnail. Yes, Derby, I'm looking at you. Stop doing that.
This video. Anyways, not all who serve Nurgle are mighty warriors or corrupted leaders. The overwhelming majority of his followers are just ordinary people, powerless, overlooked, and desperate, who all band together into plague cults, all in the hope of attracting the gods' favor. These cults, who are often led by bubo-ridden magisters and prophets of plague, offer Nurgle devotion not through grand gestures, but through coordination, secrecy, and shared purpose. They taint water supplies, destroy food stores, release weaponized viruses, and stockpile arms and equipment for their inevitable uprising. Individually, members of a plague cult might be insignificant, but together, their efforts can infiltrate and infect entire institutions. A corrupt guardsman may turn a blind eye here or there.
Oh, God, just all unnecessary. Unnecessary words.
A supply officer might manipulate food stocks.
I don't need the backstory for why people are doing this shit. I don't need we don't need their individual backstories. We don't.
And a cook could contaminate the meals of an entire garrison. Actions that would be meaningless alone, but devastating when part of a larger unified cult's operation. Now, some plague cults interpret Nurgle's will incorrectly and see death itself as the ultimate goal. These misguided sects bring destruction without purpose, and are often seen as heretics even amongst fellow worshippers. True cults of Nurgle seek not mindless death, but the spread of rot, despair, and unrelenting disease. A cycle, not a conclusion. Though often hidden and small scale, plague cults can bring entire cities to their knees before authorities even recognize the threat. And while their work is grim, for the faithful, it is meaningful. A shared path into decay, and perhaps into the Plague Father's loving embrace. When cultists are conscripted by either the Death Guard or a Nurgle warband, which we'll cover momentarily, they assail their foes in huge numbers. They charge, screaming into battle as a howling disease tide, equipped often with crude autoguns, ritual daggers, and improvised clubs.
Yes, we've experienced this in Darktide.
They spill across the enemy lines and descend upon the unbelievers, fighting desperately to earn the favor of Nurgle himself. For the warbands, massive waves of cultists like this prove to be a cheap, disposable resource excellent for drawing enemy fire. Now, for the cultists themselves, however, the only reward that they often receive for their service normally just comes in the form of a painful and pointless death. So those Nurgle warbands I mentioned are often led or composed of Chaos Space Marines and other such Chaos champions who operate with purpose, power, and freedom, whereas the cults are often made up of individuals who have yet to earn the favor of their patron, or at most.
Yes, Francois, I agree. The second video we've done for him for a lore video, he is annoying as all ways possible. The only saving grace is that it's just his voice. I don't actually have to see him. If I had to see him, this would categorize as torture for me. The orc video was okay. Yeah, he managed to be, he was pithy with the orc video. We were done in 40 minutes. He was pithy, and I appreciated that. This is literally a slog right now.
Have earned only his most paltry of blessings. The warbands have his full undivided attention. There are no weaklings amongst their members. They are some of the greatest warriors and keenest tacticians that have all been creatively blessed in unique and deadly ways. Whereas comparatively weak cultists must work in secret, the members of a warband have nothing to hide. Their strength allows them to spread rot openly, bolstered by divine gifts and overwhelming force. Warbands strike when and where they wish. Some spread.
Okay, that's interesting. I've actually never seen artwork of Nurgle Fleet. That's pretty fucking nasty. That's pretty nasty. Good art right there.
Poison supply routes or infect entire planets through seemingly random opportunity. Now, one such warband, the Brotherhood of Unclean Mercy, famously infected a merchant fleet by tainting a single cargo shipment, dooming an entire continent without ever firing a single shot. Many of these warbands form when individual plague marines, rejected by or disillusioned with their current warband, leave their brothers and seek out others who share their devotion to Nurgle. These lost warriors are drawn together by the Plague Father's call and form new communities, traveling caravans of rot and ruin, united not by rigid hierarchy, but by shared faith and the joyous burden of spreading decay. In this way, warbands become the perfect instrument of Nurgle's will, more focused than the wandering cults, more nimble than the Death Guard's grand crusade. They are the scalpel to the Death Guard's hammer, and as they march across the stars, rusted blades drawn, bells tolling, they spread not just plague, but Nurgle's gospel of joyous ruin.
All right. His little section of the Chaos Void.
Okay, so shifting attention away from mortals and the physical universe, let's take a look at Nurgle's domain within the realm of chaos. And deep within the roiling madness of the warp lies the Garden of Nurgle, a realm of unrelenting decay, disease, and entropy. This is the Plague Father's private domain, a festering expanse of grotesque vegetation and living corruption, where the cycle of death and rebirth plays out in perpetual, agonizing detail. Now, it's far from random chaos, though. The garden is a reflection of Nurgle's perverse order, overgrown with swollen fungi, rot-infested trees, and rivers of sludge. It is a place where new diseases are cultivated, tested, and unleashed. Plague bearers tend to its blighted crops. Festering cocoons hatch demonic entities, and giggling Nurglings swarm through the bile-soaked undergrowth. It is a grotesque parody of natural life, maintained with disturbing care and devotion. Though the garden appears disorganized and collapsing under its own filth, it operates under a precise and intentional cycle. Shovel petal plants uproot themselves to make room for new skull seeds, which bloom only to be trampled by rampaging beasts of Nurgle. Their remains burst into clouds of infectious pulp, carried by flies that are devoured by airborne predators, who in turn become sickened and explode mid-flight, seeding fresh areas of the garden below with diseased matter. Every action here feeds the next, and every death spawns new life in a never-ending chain of corruption. Now, Nurgle's realm defies mortal logic. Space is fluid, time irrelevant, and movement is less an act of physical travel.
Well, that's the thing. We've already talked. Wow, this could be a long ass segment. Once again, he's repeating himself. Time doesn't exist in the Chaos Void. It doesn't. It doesn't, and that's why these things are possible. That's why we can always talk about how fantasy and 40K link together for the Chaos Gods, because it's just too complete. It's all happening at the same time for them. Doesn't matter. These are two separate realities or realms or like that. It doesn't matter. Chaos exists in the void, in the warp, and it is going to spread out no matter what. It's all happening at the same time for them. Could be thousands of years for us and a blink for them.
And more a progression through a series of symbolic experiences. The demons that inhabit the garden do not serve in the traditional sense. They are extensions of...
I find that interesting, since we've had such good experiences with Orbiter Ian, that he's been, sometimes he can be a little slow, but he is at least, he doesn't drown us in needless exposition like this guy is.
The garden itself, as much a part of the environment as the filth-stained trees and pestilent air. Even the plague bearers, who were once mortal beings, struggle to impose structure on the madness. Though driven to count, record, and monitor, their efforts are ultimately futile, a gesture toward order in a place defined by diseased entropy. Yet, they continue, because it pleases their god. And in that act, they find purpose. All across the garden, one might find grotesque spectacles. The trees fashioned from the flesh of dead Eldar, dripping with the tears of a dying race. Fields where tongues sprout from the soil, each one bearing the marks of a different infection. These horrors appear and vanish according to Nurgle's whim. Some are constructed for experimentation. Others exist to reward a favored demon. Few remain unchanged for long, though. But certain core features do endure, such as the breeding pits of Nurgle's creations and the crop fields where the plagues take root. The Garden of Nurgle is not merely a battlefield or a realm of punishment. It's a domain of creation. Horrifying, unnatural creation, where suffering births new life and decay is treated as sacred. It is a sanctuary of disease maintained by a god who sees in rot not ruin, but beauty. At the heart of the garden lies Nurgle's mansion, a grotesque and crumbling structure known as the Blighted Mansion of Misery and Mirth. This is the throne room and laboratory of the Plague God, a place where entropy and invention intertwine. Within its rotting walls, Nurgle stirs a massive cauldron, said to be large enough to hold the oceans of every world in the galaxy, brewing plagues that may one day scour entire systems. The mansion itself seems forever on the edge of collapse. Rotten beams groan under their own weight, while moss-covered walls sag and weep. Shutters hang loosely from their frames, clinging to windows whose broken, filth-caked glass lets through only the dimmest of light. From the drains spill beetles, maggots, and impossibly twisted centipedes, creatures formed from tongues, human digits, and raw malice. Paint peels eternally from warped timber, but the house never loses its signature gray-green pallor. Above, countless chimneys spew thick, dark smoke, though on closer inspection, one realizes that it is swarms of flies, in numbers beyond comprehension. Nearby, trees of bone bear fruit that rots as it ripens, sagging and splitting before it can be picked. The mansion is surrounded by demonic birds whose calls resemble funeral songs, a chorus of death echoing across the garden. How this place, or the garden itself for that matter, sustains its form without collapsing entirely is unknowable. It exists not through physics, but by the will and whim of Nurgle alone. Now, the Plague Father doesn't spend all of his time indoors. Most of the time, he can be found outside, seated upon a massive, grotesque chair near the front door, greeting visitors both summoned and accidental. He offers them diseased drinks, hearty conversation, and an invitation to explore the many rooms of his domain. But the invitation is far from safe. Inside, the mansion is vast, maze-like, and alive with threat. Rotten floorboards give way to the lower levels, where carrion creatures consume anything that falls. Grand staircases rise into the gloom, draped in tattered rugs and lined with chambers where demons eagerly await fresh victims. Those who ascend far enough,
this is good.
A place of quiet horror, where plague bearers catalog Nurgle's creations with obsessive devotion. Glass jars line the walls, each containing the remains of plague victims from across the galaxy. Not just flesh, but souls, trapped and fading slowly as spiritual disease eats them from within. Below, deeper in the mansion, lies the kitchens and larders, where every imaginable and unimaginable ingredient is kept, labeled, and organized. These rooms feed Nurgle's cauldron, and the cauldron must always be fed. Few understand the cauldron's true significance. It's not just a tool, but one of Nurgle's most prized possessions, a crucible of infinite creativity and boundless disease. It is here that he experiments, stirs, and perfects the plagues that will one day be unleashed upon the mortal realm. And a word of warning, should a visitor linger here too long, they too may become part of the recipe. While Khorne bellows commands from the Skull Throne, Tzeentch weaves endless schemes from within his labyrinth, and Slaanesh indulges in endless sensation within their palace, Nurgle instead chooses not to rule from a distance and roams his domain. He speaks with his demons, tends to the filth, and delights in the eternal cycle of growth, rot, and rebirth. Though he oversees the entirety of the garden, there are places he returns to more often than others, such as the deathbeds and the poxyards. The deathbeds serve a dual purpose. First, it is a prison, a mire where lost travelers and defeated invaders are trapped in deep pits of sludge and decay, held in stasis for future experimentation, or to be slowly broken down into raw material. But it's also a stage. For in the deathbeds, Nurgle indulges in one of his most curious pleasures, storytelling. The Plague Father is absolutely fascinated by the mortal realm, and it is
that I did not. I am the law. I a good place to stop. I was not expecting. Okay, that's interesting. Nurgle's a storyteller. I find that interesting. And I am the law. I am the law. We will stop the plague cults. Because I am the law. We haven't played in a while.
It's here that he listens eagerly to tales of far-off worlds, strange cultures, and new species, and not out of mercy, but for inspiration. These stories fuel his creativity, giving him new ideas for plagues tailored to other lands. Sometimes those trapped in the muck are given a rare opportunity. If they can force the worms from their throat, speak clearly, and tell a good story, they may earn Nurgle's attention. Those who manage to amuse or inspire him are pulled from the filth and taken to the mansion. There, they have the great honor of becoming vessels for Nurgle's newest plagues. Once they are properly infected, Nurgle smiles, gives them one last tender, gut-churning embrace, and sends them back into the lands their stories described. Now, the poxyards, on the other hand, serve as a vital testing ground for Nurgle's endless catalog of diseases, and thus he visits pretty regularly. It is here that the Plague Father evaluates the effectiveness of his contagions, both of the flesh and of the spirit. Each malady is unique and thus demands its own trial. As such, the very nature of the poxyards reshapes itself to suit the experiment's requirements. For spiritual afflictions, the region may manifest as a field of crystal-clear lakes, offering the illusion of purity and relief. Dehydrated souls crawl to the water, believing salvation is near, only for the lakes to turn to pus and blood the moment they drink, flooding their bodies with sickness and despair. For physical trials, the landscape may shift again, this time into a thicket of claw-thrust brambles, razor-edged demon plants that tear flesh on contact. Infected captives are driven into the brambles, often pursued by gleeful beasts of Nurgle. If the victims scream in pain, then Nurgle takes note. Pain means the disease has not yet dulled the nerves. The infection requires adjustment. No matter its current form, the poxyards are always seen as an active place of experimentation and innovation, where rot and suffering are refined into art. Nurgle draws great joy and insight from these trials and returns often, endlessly shaping and reshaping his creations for maximum effect. Now, there are other places like it throughout the garden, places filled with activity, laughter, and the grotesque joy that only Nurgle's children can truly understand, such as the Morabusium, where the most precious and toxic herbs take root, the Dunglash Arboretum, where refined excrement hangs from trees like putrid, reeking vines, and many others. All of these regions provide Nurgle with the ingredients and insight he needs to further his work at the cauldron when he returns to the mansion after one of his invigorating jaunts. Now, beyond its central regions, the Garden of Nurgle is ever-changing. Many parts of this diseased realm exist only briefly, rising and fading with the birth and death of particular plagues. Some may only even be seen by those in the throes of fevered hallucination.
No, do not speak that into existence. It's going to give Cloud one more thing to disgustingly goon to.
Glimpses of mortals touched by Nurgle's hand. Yet the garden is near infinite, and it's not unthinkable that the faithful or the infected might catch a fleeting vision of it in their final moments. Some reports from the dying say that—
All right, I got to mention, we are halfway through this at increased speed, and I've gotten all that I need now. We got Nurgle's sort of birth. We've gotten a description of his minions and how he affects the universe. And now we're getting a description of his realm. What the hell is he going to go on for another half a video? We even got his relationship with the other Chaos Gods in there. What on earth he's going to talk about for another half of this video? What? I've got, from my perspective, I've gotten all the pertinent lore.
they can hear the tolling of faint bells. Perhaps they refer to the death bell lily fields, where pale flowers bloom each time a mortal succumbs to one of Nurgle's creations. When a blossom opens here, it rings softly, a chime that never ceases, marking another soul claimed. Now, other regions are more tangible, if no less horrifying. The Hanging Gardens of Thushblog are one such place, a remote stretch of the garden gifted to a great unclean one for exterminating an orc infestation of Hurax using a choking plague. In tribute, Thushblog strung the intestines of every fallen orc from the trees of his domain. The bodies hang there still, rotting, never granted the mercy of death. Around them, plague bearers shift through sorting pools.
Now, I have to say that the choice of that artwork, Those are savage orcs. Those are 40. Those are fantasy savage orcs we saw.
Moments. Some reports from the dying say they can hear the tolling of faint bells. Perhaps they refer to the death bell lily fields, where pale flowers bloom each time a mortal succumbs to one of Nurgle's creations. When a blossom opens here, it rings softly, a chime that never ceases, marking another soul claimed. Now, other regions are more tangible, if no less horrifying. The Hanging Gardens of Thushblag are one such place, a remote stretch of the garden gifted to a great unclean one for exterminating an orc infestation of Hurax using a choking plague. In tribute,
I mean, all right, this brings my point home about if he's using this artwork. These are savage orcs from fantasy. These are not 40k orcs, and those are snotlings. So that's that reminds you the crossbreeding, the crossing of the two different worlds. We'll just say worlds.
Blog strung the intestines of every fallen orc from the trees of his domain. The bodies hang there still, rotting, never granted the mercy of death. Around them, plague bearers shift through sorting pools, tallying organs to track the effectiveness of each disease. Beasts of Nurgle frolic through fields where planted spines yield crops that induce madness. Nurglings roll laughing down hills, spontaneously formed by the vomited remains of long-digested mortals. Entire regiments regurgitated after centuries within the guts of great unclean ones. The Garden of Nurgle is a wondrous place, filled with vitality, mirth, and experiences beyond mortal comprehension. It is a playground for the minions of the Lord of Decay, a laboratory for his work, and a comforting home for a god that knows his realm is the shape of things to come. Now, although Nurgle occasionally welcomes visitors to his garden, those who enter uninvited often meet a grim fate. The Eldar of Craftworld Lughnath learned this firsthand during their attempt to breach his realm. According to their legends, Nurgle holds Isha, the Eldar goddess of healing, prisoner here, and many of the Eldar dream of her eventual rescue. Hoping to cure their people of the brittle coma, the Seers of Lughnath projected their spirits into Nurgle's domain. Seeking Isha's aid. They knew they would not survive, but hoped to return their knowledge through their spirit stones. Now, at first, everything was going well. Their astral forms managed to cut through the garden with ease. But then, Nurgle took notice. He unleashed his demonic hordes, and a great battle followed. The Seers held their own, even damaging parts of the garden itself. But Nurgle retaliated in kind. Their physical bodies back on the craft world began to wither away. Their spirit stones dissolved, and their souls were bound to the garden forever. There, they were overwhelmed, lungs filled with fetid air, skin consumed by crawling worms, and mouth.
You're going to go into a god's domain. You got to be prepared. You got to come ready to fight. Don't bring token force. You go in there hardcore. And honestly, if you're going in there, you go in there ready to kill a fucking god. You don't just go in there to do them. You're going there to kill a fucking god. That's what you do.
Invaded by demon flies. In the end, their spirits were transformed into living trees, bearing rotten fruit for the Nurglings to feast upon, a final punishment for trespassing in a place not meant for them.
Plague legions.
To the outside observer, Nurgle's demonic legions might look like a shambling, chaotic horde, just an endless tide of rot and filth. But just like with the garden itself, there's a disturbing order beneath the madness. Like the stages of a disease, each legion plays a role in a larger cycle of decay and renewal, working together to spread the grandfather's gifts far and wide. These are the plague legions, demons birthed in the land of the Plague Lord, marching to war in both real space and the realm of chaos. Wherever they go, they bring the infectious generosity of their creator, leaving behind worlds drenched in sickness, sorrow, and death. Each legion is a piece of Nurgle's grand design. Some craft the plagues, others spread them. Some bring the infections to a peak, while others make sure the death toll keeps climbing. You can think of their efforts as less war and more sickening demonic agriculture, where every battlefield is another plot of land for the garden to grow. So what are the 7 plague legions, and what is each of their roles?
Okay.
The first legions are the Fecundus legions, and they're the creators.
All right, if you're gonna, this is something, and then this is legitimate lore knowledge on the legions. Okay, I need to know this.
The gardeners of pestilence. They wander both the warp and the galaxy in search of raw materials to feed back to the garden, forever seeking new ingredients for the next great plague. The second group of legions are the infectious legions, and they're the messengers, the initial wave of infection. They carry the freshly crafted diseases from their fecundus kin in order to spread corruption across new worlds, open wounds in reality, and let Nurgle's gifts seep in. The third group is the pathogenous legions.
Now, once again, you notice he's mixing in fantasy artwork with the 40k artwork here. I wonder if that's by design or just by desperation, running out of stuff.
Represent disease at its most virulent. They are Nurgle's most aggressive warriors, the defenders of his garden and the spearheads of invasion. Their role is to ensure the Immaterium knows the full, festering weight of Nurgle's wrath. The epidemic legions are next, and their escalation incarnate. Their purpose is to take an outbreak and turn it into a galactic cataclysm. They ride the momentum of infection, engulfing entire systems in rot and ruin. After that, we have the rot legions, which specialize in decomposition itself. Their very presence breaks down matter at the molecular level, softening the crust of reality so that the garden may take root. With every step the legions take, a world dies, before being reborn in filth. The morbidus legions are the final harvesters, the reapers of the dead. They exist to ensure the body count continues to climb ever higher. In their eyes, decay without death is like a clean napkin, completely pointless and unworthy of the grandfather's attention. Finally, we have the necroticus legions, which are Nurgle's tanks, bloated fortresses of despair and resilience. These titanic abominations wield hopelessness like a weapon, and their corrupted flesh constantly regenerates. Torn sinew reknits with festering muscle. Wounds close, and death refuses them. Each army within the Plague Legions is led by a Great Unclean One, which you can think of as Nurgle's generals. Beneath them are their lieutenants, demon princes and heralds of Nurgle, who lead smaller formations of their own known as Talibans. Talibans usually consist of plague bearers or plague
Taliban me banana.
drones, but they sometimes are joined by other demonic horrors, such as Nurglings, Beasts of Nurgle, or whatever else the garden happens to cough up. Unlike the demons of other gods, like the ambitious bloodletters of Khorne or the narcissistic demonettes of Slaanesh, Nurgle's minions serve with joy. They embrace their role in the Grandfather's plan, spreading rot through real space, not out of ambition or hatred for their lord's enemies, but out of mutual love for the Grandfather's plans. Back within the garden, these demons serve in their own delightful ways, dragging back maggot-ridden flesh to feed the Plague Father's experiments, or casting spores into the warp wind in order to infect distant stars. Each and every one may only be a small cog in the diseased machine of the long decay, but they're each special, important, appreciated, and loved by their patron. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention one more of these factions, and that's the Plague Guard, which are considered the greatest and most vile beings made from within the garden. Masters of contagions dedicated to the construction of the deadliest pathogens ever known, using them to inflict atrocities that leave behind only pus-ridden swamps and decayed wastelands of rotting trees, where there was once glamorous cities and abundant life. Led by Kugath himself, this 7-legion-sized warband of demons prey upon the galaxy, as they do the bidding of the Grandfather. Their most notable and by far most daunting task ever assigned to them was the invasion of Ultramar, which was covered in the Dark Imperium trilogy. They were the spearhead meant to put down the returning Primarch Rabute Gilliman before he could damage the plans of the Chaos Gods. Ships constructed from the warp-twisted carcasses of dead void whales buried millions of troops.
Yeah, but that failed from what I can gather. Blueberries fought back
Into real space. Hordes of poxwalkers, rotflies, and demon engines poured from within their insides, slowly drowning world after world with rotting corpses and dangerous diseases. The Plague Guard would continue their march across Ultramar until the dreaded battle of the world of Paramino, where Rabute Gilliman himself sought to destroy them once and for all. Pushed and damned to retreat on the ground, the Imperium would slowly begin to gain the upper hand. Well within the void, the Plague Legions burst through the Galatan, Ultramar's largest star fortress, the swarms of Nurgle's rotten armies dragging down and killing even the chapter master of the Nova Marines. Ultimately though, the Legion was defeated by Rabute Gilliman and his forces, and Kugath was forced to retreat once his lieutenant Septicus was permanently killed, destroyed by the sword of the Emperor wielded by the Avenging Sun. Okay, so now that we know all about Nurgle, his realm, and the Plague Legions, let's talk about the demons that make up the bulk of his armies.
Blueberry victory!
The Lord of Decay is proud of all of the plagues and poxes he has created as gifts for the mortal realm, but one disease stands above the rest as perhaps his favorite, Nurgle's rot. Most afflictions ravage the bodies of those who have become infected, and many even gnaw away at their soul. But Nurgle's rot utterly consumes those who contract it, mind, body, and soul. It transforms them from beings of weak mortal flesh and sees them reborn in the garden as a plague bearer. Once they emerge from the muck and filth of the garden, their mortal suffering is gone, a reward for their faith in Nurgle and their acceptance of his gifts. Whatever their old body may have been, be it a guardsman, a spacefaring merchant, an impoverished mother of 10, or even the leader of a plague cult in some rusted-out hive city, their new forms are all very similar to those of the other newly reincarnated. Their flesh is dull and covered in sores and open wounds. Pustules form and burst, their contents pouring out and collecting in the folds of the demon's flesh. Their faces all bear a single central eye, and a horn sprouts from their head. Their limbs are unnaturally gangly and yet filled with a strength they most likely never knew in life. Now, the person they once were is no more, as they've evolved into the physical embodiment of Nurgle's affection for his children. But it's possible that something of their mortal self is left behind, as these tallymen invariably seek to fill their days with seemingly mundane tasks, most of which involve seeking to impose some kind of order in the chaos of their new home. Many tend to the Grandfather's garden, help usher other plague bearers into existence like midwives, or keep catalogs of the diseases Nurgle has created. Some even attempt the impossible task of keeping a tally of the ever-changing number of Nurglings that populate the garden of Nurgle. It's all rather odd behavior for a demon when compared to the savage acts of bloodletters or the predations of demonettes, but it pleases Nurgle to see his children doing as they wish. Now, before we move any further, I really want to put into perspective just how horrifying Nurgle's rot actually is. It causes sores to swell, pulse, and burst in a spray of virulent pus and withering carnivorous maggots. Fingers, toes, ears, and lips rot away. Bones soften and snap before springing to life in a torrent of rapid ossifying growth, forcing leg bones through rancid flesh. Mouths and eye sockets fester as fertile breeding grounds for flies and other demonic parasites. Now, I could go on, but I think you get the picture. It is a misery to which no amount of description can ever possibly do justice.
Yet you've described it many times in this video. Many times. In many different ways.
Reaches beyond the physical form and into the minds and souls of the mortals who contract it. Still, dedicated followers of Nurgle understand that even this suffering is a gift from their master. Most bear the decay for as long as they can, cherishing each day of life and appreciating their place in the great cycle. There are those, however, who abandon all that Grandfather Nurgle has given them. They opt for a self-inflicted and untimely death rather than suffer with this malady, their promise to the Plague Lord being left unfulfilled. Such ungrateful wretches are swiftly forgotten and cast aside by their disappointed lord, to dissolve into nothing, their flesh and souls utterly consumed. Now, ultimately, attempting to resist Nurgle's rot is a futile endeavor. There is no cure, but that doesn't mean there isn't salvation. A rare few, normally the most devoted of the Plague
Muties! Kill the mutie! Kill the mutie!
Are able to endure their misery far longer than should be humanly possible. As their bodies collapse further and further into ruin, a peaceful calm comes over their minds and settles into their souls. At last, as they have become immobile heaps of little more than quivering flesh and rotted entrails, even these gifted mortals succumb. Now, inevitably, they will be reborn in the garden as a plague bearer, just like all of the others who succumbed to Nurgle's rot. But these plague bearers are different. Having been able to endure suffering far more thoroughly than their peers, they will be reborn into far more powerful and sturdy forms. These favored plague bearers are what are commonly referred to as the heralds of Nurgle. Shaped both by their own unique nature and the will of the plague god, each herald of Nurgle mutates to fulfill a specific role within the Talibands. Though they serve under a great unclean one, they act as direct commanders of lesser demons, leading their kin into battle with mindless obedience and often genuine joy. Their corrupted forms frequently take on grotesque, whimsical features, reflecting their bizarre satisfaction in spreading rot. Poxbringers are the most common among them, larger and more sullen than standard plague bearers, marked by oversized horns and a dour personality. Fun fact, they are also unusually aware, sometimes muttering grimly dark, humorous observations about their place in the garden. Though they may grumble at their lowly status while their superiors bask in filth, they carry out their duties without fail. Now, spoilpox scriveners serve as grim auditors of the garden, tasked with tallying everything from demons to diseases. They record their findings on rotting parchment with quills plucked from a lord of change, a mockery of order within chaos. Each scrivener is bound to a Taliban and watches over it with spiteful zeal, punishing those who slack in their devotion. Plague bearers under their gaze chant their counts incessantly, desperate to avoid correction. Notably, the scrivener's face is twisted into a trunk-like mouth, ending in blunt jaws, a mutation allowing for endless muttering and reprimand. Now, among the strangest of the heralds are what are known as sloppity bile pipers, victims of a failed and near-forgotten disease known as the churtling murian, rarely spoken of even among greater demons. This affliction is reserved for those who fail Nurgle, whether by rejecting his gifts or simply miscounting his sacred plagues. Those cursed by the murian are transformed into jesters, forced to amuse the...
I mean, now I feel like, while yes, technically lore, now we're just talking for the sake of making the video longer.
Great unclean ones and their nurglings with screeching songs and grotesque slapstick. Armed with marauders and gut pipes, they prance and howl in demented glee, doomed to eternal humiliation, all in the name of their god's twisted joy. Now, with the exception of one-off, often unnamed Titanic-scale Nurgle demons that pop up in the novels from time to time, the Great Unclean Ones are by far the largest and most powerful of Nurgle's children. They go by many names: Plague Lords, Flymasters, Stench Lords, and oddly enough, are oftentimes just referred to simply as Nurgle. No matter which god we're talking about, all greater demons refer to themselves with a whole host of different monikers and titles, yet it is only the Great Unclean Ones who are ever allowed to bear the name of their creator. In fact, although to truly behold, let alone comprehend the form of a chaos god is an impossibility for mortals, depictions of Nurgle by mortal cults across space and time are remarkably consistent, almost always in a way that's nearly indistinguishable from a Great Unclean One. These guys are not only the grandfather's most favored servants, but his direct reflection. Whereas other chaos gods command their greater demons, in many ways, Nurgle is his demons, just on a smaller scale. Those swollen, disease-ridden titans carry entire plagues within their bloated guts and often serve as a mobile home to swarms of mischievous nurglings. As both gardeners and generals, they tend the rotting flora of Nurgle's realm and keep the demonic legions in line, ensuring every plague bearer, nurgling, and beast of Nurgle does their part to spread Grandfather's blessings. Despite their monstrous appearance, the Great Unclean Ones are frequently depicted as jovial parental figures rather than blood-crazed warlords. They often organize and lead their armies in a manner akin to a parade, a sickly, jubilant carnival of disease. Plague bearers tally infections with bureaucratic zeal, nurglings scamper around like unruly toddlers, and beasts of Nurgle bounce and flop through the battlefield, playfully crushing friend and foe alike. Many Great Unclean Ones ride into battle on massive rotting palanquins, ornate yet decayed platforms carried by waves of squirming Nurglings, and surrounded by swarms of flies or gurgling, sludgy mire dwellers. Although rare, sometimes Nurgle even gives such palanquins to favored champions or elite plague bearers who have earned his approval. Now, just as the universe is constantly rotating through the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, so too do the Great Unclean Ones rotate through an array of roles, tactics, and stratagems, gradually shifting in form and function. Over the ages, they shed their bloated identities like scabs, taking on new names and new commands. Most will begin their life as generals within the Fecundus Legion, rotating in order through all of them until near the end of their life, they take their place as a leader within the Necroticus Legions. Great Unclean Ones that manage to master every form of corruption and successfully serve as a general in each of the legions becomes what is known as an exalted Great Unclean One. They are absolutely titanic in scale and dwarf all of the other ones in terms of both physical size, raw power, and bounteous gifts of plague. In many respects, they are no longer simply generals, but avatars of Nurgle in all but name.
Okay.
Now, beneath the Great Unclean Ones, we have the Plague Lord's most favored lieutenants, the Demon Princes of Nurgle. Now, as I explained before, it is possible for a mortal to become a Nurgle demon by contracting Nurgle's rot, but they'll only ever become a plague bearer. Becoming one of the Grandfather's Demon Princes is a far more difficult task that few will ever achieve. Now, many mortals have committed horrific acts in the name of the Chaos Gods. Cult leaders preach corruption. Billions commit daily atrocities and acts of twisted devotion. But for Nurgle, the Lord of Decay, these minor offerings are only enough to earn the most paltry of gifts in comparison to something like true ascension. To earn such a reward, a follower must spread disease on a planetary scale. Entire cities must collapse into starvation, rot, and filth. Populations must fall, not just by the thousands, but by the millions, consumed by pestilence and despair. Only then does Grandfather Nurgle truly take notice. The individual must perform acts so vile, so apocalyptic, that they boggle the imagination. If their deeds bring a smile to Nurgle's bloated, oozing face, they may pledge themselves fully to the great corruptor. Few will ever reach this point. Most fail, dying in agony, or worse, mutating into a chaos spawn. But for the select few who manage to succeed, for those who win Nurgle's favor, they will be granted eternal life as a legendary demonic entity that will serve their dark master faithfully for eons to come. Each of Nurgle's demonic minions take delight in doing their part to bring the fruition of the Plague Father's grand vision for the collapse and rebirth of the universe. There is much to do, from counting the death toll of each newly unleashed plague to filling the pus pits with fresh rot. The efforts are ceaseless, but not without joy. As the demons go about their work, they will sometimes be interrupted by an unexpected but always appreciated visit from one of the Lord of Decay's most wonderful creations, a beast of Nurgle. Propelled by stocky legs and a bile-coated slithering tail, these enthusiastic slime hounds bound about the garden, constantly seeking playmates. Their putrescent tongues wrap around plague bearers, drawing them toward the beast's noxious maw. In their enthusiasm, they crash headlong into meticulously organized piles of limbs, heads, and other rotted body parts, causing the tallymen to have to begin their counts anew. Nothing embodies the joyful nature of chaos in quite the same way as one of these beasts. Though they undo some work that has been done, not one plague bearer, great unclean one, or Nurgle ever complains, for they are the physical realization of their god's will to bring energy, vitality, and joviality to the universe. The beasts of Nurgle remind the other demons why it is to serve their master. This boundless enthusiasm for play and unquenchable thirst for attention also serves the Lord of Decay when his forces march to war. A beast of Nurgle could go thousands of years, never knowing the greater world outside of the garden. When taken to the mortal realm and sent forward towards Nurgle's enemies, the excitement a beast of Nurgle feels is impossible to restrain. They lunge into the ranks of the enemies, trying to find new friends and different playmates. Armor rots instantly upon contact with the caustic goo they're coated in. Bones and weapons shatter under their bulk as they roll around on top of their newfound companions. When the unfortunate victims cease moving, the beasts of Nurgle pause briefly, feeling a touch of sadness that their new friends no longer want to play with them. But that quickly subsides when they bound off, setting to find someone new to play with. Now, when a beast of Nurgle suffers the ultimate frustration of being killed by the very playthings with which they had hoped to frolic, their essence retreats into the warp and comes to rest in the slime pits of the garden. There it spends centuries forming a new body, shielded from interference by a mass of bloated flies. Over time, depression and resentment take hold within the beast, which makes them a very rare creature within the garden, as they're without joy, mirthless, and bitter. When the beast emerges from its long dormancy, its new form is much different from that of the creature that it once was. Its skin develops a chitinous layer on its back. Spindly bladed limbs replace its short, stocky legs. Most dramatically, the beast's tentacles give way to enormous wings, similar to those of the flies that protected the beast while it regenerated. Thus transformed, the new rotfly attempts to return to the mortal realm, malice in its heart, driving it to seek out and destroy those who refused to play with it centuries before. Left to its own devices, the rotfly's anger would drive it mad. But Nurgle is a loving and merciful god and cannot bear to see one of his children suffer so. To ease the rotfly's pain, the Plague Father pairs it with a plague bearer who has earned a place of pride in the demonic legions of their god. The relationship between a rotfly and its rider benefits both the former beast and the favored plague bearer. The rider gains the ability to cover more ground, allowing it to count Nurgle's many putrid blessings more thoroughly than ever before, while the mount gains an eternal companion, allowing the pain of its previous rejection to fester a little less. Now, plague toads are denizens of the garden that take on the form of painted, verminous pseudo-amphibians. These things are pretty massive, normally the size of a lesser vehicle, and are used by demons such as plague bearers as mounts. They excrete sweat, pus, and blood at all times, and have a mouth capable of swallowing a man whole. Now, within the realm of chaos, plague toads can be found in large groups in areas resembling flooded wetlands or sewers, and thus are easily located, corralled, and herded as attack creatures in battle. Now, though they are some of the least of Nurgle's minions, Nurglings are surely some of the most numerous and among the most favored. Even their appearance is pleasing to the Lord of all, for each Nurgling is like a minute copy of the Dread Master himself. This is perhaps not surprising, given that Nurglings are formed within the innards of a great unclean one, who themselves physically reflect Nurgle's repulsive magnificence. Nurglings serve the filth father in which they are formed, often pretending that their progenitor is Nurgle himself. They play within the folds of his flesh, fetch morsels for him to consume, pick at his sores, or give him new ones, and otherwise seek his approval, giggling all the while. Sometimes they will end up being gifted to heralds or other powerful champions, and will treat their new master much as they had treated the great unclean one from before, whether the new lord would prefer that or not. Demons of Nurgle emulate the Lord of Decay and follow his path in many different ways. When they are not vying for the attention of their parent demon, Nurglings most often try to do things that reflect the mirthful nature of Nurgle himself. This frequently leads them to interfering with the work of the plague bearers, who honestly find Nurglings to be something of a nuisance, though they don't normally give voice to their irritation, at least not when a great unclean one is within earshot. Sometimes a plague bearer will be nearly finished counting the number of drips of pus required to fill a particular pool, only for a swarm of Nurglings to come running through it, playfully splashing in the rancid goo and scattering it all around. It is their nature to cause mischief, just as it is the plague bearer's nature to keep tallies. In the realm of chaos, even in the relatively ordered domain of Nurgle, it is no surprise that harmony eludes the grasp of most demons.
Equipment.
Okay, so now that we know a bit more about Nurgle's demons, let's talk about some of the equipment.
This feels
they use.
unnecessary.
For the Grandfather's faithful, both mortal and demonic alike, countless boons and blessings are granted in exchange for loyal service in spreading his plagues and pushing the great game forward. To the plague god, anything can become a gift. Broken machines might sprout sinew and teeth, firing bone and rot-like ammunition. Limbs twist into tendrils, and death itself becomes a form of life. Despite being the god of entropy, Nurgle's creativity is disturbingly limitless. Among his endless arsenal, some weapons appear again and again in the hands of his most favored followers, symbols of their devotion and status. Lesser troops often wield rusted swords, axes, or spears that look ready to fall apart at any moment. But they never do. They drip with toxins and ooze, each strike poisoning flesh and soul alike. Ranged weapons are worse, grotesque constructs with gaping mouths that belch slime, mucus, and explosive bile, melting victims on contact. The most infamous of their melee weapons are plague swords and bile swords, jagged, diseased instruments riddled with holes and serrated edges. Though they appear to be forged of ancient, crumbling iron, they are as much a manifestation of Nurgle's essence as the demons who wield them. Some of them that are wielded by plague bearers cause the individual struck by them to suffer the concentrated pain that the wielder felt in life before becoming blessed by Nurgle, whereas others spread a variety of diseases and pathogens with every nick and cut. Plague bearers take a muted pride in their blades, ensuring they are ever coated in filth to better transmit their hosted diseases. The most powerful of these rusted instruments of plague are known as the Fathers of Blades, which are said to be the first weapons ever forged after Nurgle's birth, powerful enough to kill dozens with a single swing or even just the breeze of a near miss. Now, swords are one thing, but sometimes Nurgle demons will wield things a bit more esoteric that are as much a tool as a weapon, such as the Flesh Mower, a thing of pure carnage that churns through crowds of infantry, grinds their bodies into mulch, and leaves behind fertile beds for the Garden of Nurgle to bloom in their wake. Others wield what are known as plague flails that each have a head that's packed with concentrated contagion, spreading grandfather's disease with every bone-shattering impact. Now, speaking of clubbing weapons, the large bells that you'll see wielded by the Great Unclean Ones are known as Doomsday Bells. In addition to acting like a massive battering ram that can pulverize vehicles and infantry alike, the bell's tolls echo across the battlefield like a funeral chime, each ring spreading despair-wrought madness, breaking morale and weakening the souls of all who hear it. Now, blight grenades, or death heads as they're also called, are vile explosive devices crafted from the skulls.
I'm just going to pause for a second, just because transformation purpose. Also, just to say, now you're just reading from a freaking 40K manual at this point. That's all you're doing. While, yeah, gear and equipment is cool, I feel like we're just wasting our time here. This isn't lore anymore. This is equipping your army, is what it is for your army. Allocating points to your gear.
The Fallen. They come in two different variants. Some of them are designed by mortal cultists, and others are quite literally grown on trees by their demonic counterparts within the garden. Whatever form they take, they all burst on impact, launching shrapnel laced with potent, often customized diseases. Elite Plague Marines and Biologus Putrefiers specialize in refining these weapons, increasing their power with each horrific iteration.
Notable.
Nurgle constantly
care
stirs
about
his
the
cauldron with
individual
new unholy
diseases.
recipes, leading to a seemingly infinite list of plagues, poxes, and maladies. Some have endured for centuries or even millennia, and normally becoming a personal favorite of the Plague Father. And seeing as disease is the primary weapon utilized by his legions, let's talk about a few notable ones. Bone rack is a rare and once quarantined disease that forces its victims' bones to grow uncontrollably, twisting organs and limbs until the body controls, ruptures, and suffocates
This is
itself. It was
unnecessary
reintroduced to the
information.
galaxy when Inquisitor Malia Orbiana foolishly released it while searching for weapons to use against the orcs. The walking pox is one of the most common zombie plagues in the modern setting. Victims lose control of their body, die, and rise again as shambling corpses. But they're still technically conscious, only imprisoned in their rotting flesh, and now are driven to feed on the living. Now, the Godblight is perhaps the strongest ever created. It is a super weapon virus, brewed using the blood of Rabute Gilliman himself, mixed with thousands of other plagues. It was said to be strong enough to kill a god, and a single dose nearly killed the Primarch of the Ultramarines. Without direct interference from the Emperor, Gilliman's soul would have dissolved into the warp. Though all of Nurgle's children are precious to him, a few stand out among the endless tide of rotten ruin.
All right, so
Champions, generals, and caretakers
Now we're gonna get named characters. Okay.
who embody different aspects of his will. So let's talk about a few of the notable champions of decay. First, there's Scabiathrax the Bloated, also known as Maggot Spore and the Wind of Nurgle. He is a
This should have been put earlier in the video. Who are his minions?
among the oldest and most powerful of the Great Unclean Ones, a hulking embodiment of decay. He first appeared during the Horus Heresy, laying rot upon the walls of the Imperial Palace itself. Wielding the Blade of Decay, Scabiathrax's every strike accelerates time itself, turning flesh into parchment in seconds. Then there's Kugath the Plague Father, a Great Unclean One who began life as a curious Nurgling who accidentally consumed one of Nurgle's greatest plagues, transforming him into the greater demon we know today. Driven by guilt and shame over ruining what could have been the most perfect disease, Kugath became a reclusive alchemist, obsessively crafting ever more virulent plagues to regain his master's favor. His failure to kill Rabute Gilliman during the Plague Wars led to his temporary fall from grace, and his current fate is unknown. Next, we have Kugath's rival, Rotigus the Rainfather, who coincidentally rose to prominence after Kugath's disgrace.
Now, for those who would be wondering, if you are purchasing actual Warhammer, actual Games Workshop models, you would open up your Nurgle manual, your Nurgle battle Bible, whatever you want to call it, for all your points. These would all be listed in there. And I don't know how it is now, but once upon a time, if it was listed in the manual and given all details with stats, you could get a corresponding model. I had several different Orc Warlord models when I played Fantasy. But so at one point in time, I'm sure these guys were all available for purchase. Now I know everybody's just making 3D models of this shit. Fuck you, Games Workshop, for being bitches.
He is a walking deluge of corruption, and he spreads Nurgle's fecund blessings across the stars simply by existing. He turns once thriving worlds into swamps of rot. His presence is heralded by unnatural storms and fields of pestilence, which has earned him godlike status in some mortal cults, all until the terrible truth becomes horrifically clear. Epidemius, the tallyman of Nurgle, is an eternal accountant of contagion. Carried atop a palanquin of silent Nurglings, he meticulously catalogs every disease and infection in the galaxy. His calculations are vital to Nurgle's great work, ensuring that each new plague is as efficient, joyful, and ruinous as the last. Horticulus Slimix is Nurgle's chief gardener. He is said to be humorless and relentless, a cultivator of decay who ensures the Plague Father's sacred realm remains fertile and blooming with rot. Slimix treats any damage to the garden as a personal affront and responds.
And you might be wondering, why would I go for one of these lesser guys than a Great Unclean One special character? Because technically speaking, objectively speaking, technically speaking, real world speaking, sometimes the point values for your army don't allow for one of those massive guys. You're building a small point army, you're going to get a commander, a general, special named character that isn't just a stand-in. Like for me back in the day was, okay, orc shaman on a wyvern, boom, there you go. Or orc warlord on a wyvern. No special name, but he's the war leader. But if you have enough points and you're going to get a special commander, you don't always have enough to get one of those topper super, in this case, massive Great Unclean Ones. You get a small guy like this who's probably available and can lead the army and still provide a powerful punch to your army.
With ruthless efficiency. Together, all of these beings represent the many faces of Nurgle: joyous, grim, generous, spiteful, and eternal. Whether through pestilence, warfare, or decay, they spread the Grandfather's love across the stars, one planet at a time. Now, as I mentioned before, I didn't want to talk about the Death Guard too much in this video, as I've already done a full deep dive on them, but I don't think I could do the champions of Nurgle justice without mentioning at least two important Death Guard figureheads, as they're arguably two of the most important characters when it comes to Nurgle's lore. I speak, of course, of Nurgle's champion, Mortarion, Primarch of the Death Guard, and Nurgle's herald, Typhus. But since I've already talked about them a lot in the other video, I'll keep it brief. Mortarion, who during the Great Crusade famously hated psychers and anything even remotely related to witchcraft due to his upbringing on the poisoned world of Barbarous, was dragged into the Plague God's service not by devotion, but desperation. Near the tail end of the Horus Heresy, Mortarion would end up pledging his soul to Nurgle in order to save his legion after Typhus, his first captain and oldest friend, infected them with the Destroyer Plague after having secretly pledged himself to Nurgle. And here's the thing about Mortarion and his relationship with the Grandfather. He openly loathes his master, obeying only out of necessity. Now in the 41st millennium, he is one of the most powerful entities in Nurgle's service. To even stand in the Lord of Death's presence is lethal, due to the myriad plagues that fill the air around him. Now, it's true that his intellect is towering, his strength and endurance unmatched, but if he does have a weakness, it's that contempt for his enemies has on occasion led him to underestimating his foes. Though powerful, Mortarion is seen as a fallen king, haunted by the chains of survival. Whereas Mortarion is Nurgle's champion, Typhus is his herald. And it's true that the Primarch is the figurehead of the Death Guard, and in recent times has left his brooding isolation and become far more active in real space. But for many years, this was not the case, and many considered Typhus to be the Legion's true leader. And honestly, many still do. Both sorcerer and host of the Destroyer Hive, Typhus spreads Nurgle's gifts across the galaxy from the helm of his ancient warship, the Terminus Est. Whereas Mortarion is a begrudging champion who loathes what he has become, Typhus is a true son of Nurgle and a zealous follower of his teachings. He has dedicated his life to seeing the Grandfather's will made manifest, which normally comes in the form of unleashing hordes of plague zombies on unsuspecting worlds, as he has a special affinity for the Walking Dead. Needless to say, neither of these two get along and have some pretty fundamentally opposed philosophies when it comes to their patron and how the Death Guard should be run. If you've made it all the way to the end of this video and you couldn't tell, Nurgle is by far my favorite of the Chaos Gods. I love just how creepy and disgusting.
Oh, really? No, I couldn't tell. How many times you talked about the same thing ad nauseum.
He and his followers are, and I love the juxtaposition between extreme body horror and fatherly love. His paradoxical nature makes him easily one of the most complex and interesting entities in the entire setting. Now, that being said, it's also what makes him one of the franchise's most disturbing, and it's an element of his character that I don't think gets talked about nearly enough. Now, I know this should go without saying as we're talking about a literal chaos god here, but there's a darker side to Nurgle that I'd like to dive into here at the end of the video. And just a fair warning, we're going to be talking about real-world abusers and their tactics. For me, it's not the body horror that really gets under my skin with Nurgle. It's the psychological horror that stems from his blatant hypocrisy. Both his fans in and out of universe claim that he is a loving paternal figure that cares deeply for each and every one of his children, that he takes pride in their achievements, and that once you let his festering tendrils inside of your heart, you'll never be alone again. For Nurgle's love is eternal and unconditional. But this is a lie. Nurgle acts the way that he does, not out of love, but out of a need for control. He creates in his faithful a form of emotional dependency via a philosophy that parallels the behavior patterns found in real-world abuse.
You know what? I think he just keeps wanting to show this picture because of the like rancid butthole on that tiny little creature. That's how he really keeps seeing this picture.
Abusive relationships, specifically those involving coercive control, gaslighting, trauma bonding, and pathological dependency. He preys on the most vulnerable members of society, the sick, the broken, and the damned, coming to them when they are at their weakest. He enthralls them not with fear or promises of power, but instead a twisted form of affection. He offers comfort, acceptance, and joy, but only on his terms. The dynamic is directly comparable to the real-world concept of trauma bonding, a psychological response wherein a victim forms an emotional attachment to their abuser due to intermittent reinforcement, periods of cruelty broken up by affection. Just as Nurgle bestows disease and suffering while offering spiritual love and parental warmth, abusers oscillate between dehumanization and tenderness to keep their victims psychologically tethered. Additionally, Nurgle isolates his followers from hope and self-determination in much the same way that abusers erode their victims' self-worth. His doctrines teach that resistance is futile, that hope is a delusion, and that only through surrender can one find peace. This, in many ways, mirrors the gaslighting techniques used by abusers who convince their victims that they're incapable of living outside of the abusive system, framing submission not as defeat, but as safety. The very idea that one of his victims would wish to be cured to escape their suffering or
I feel like this is, again, unnecessary. This is his perception on something. If you're given a lore video, tell us the lore, not your personal thoughts and feelings on this.
This corruption in any way is presented as delusional, cowardly, or if we want to throw a little bit of religious abuse into the mix, blasphemous in the eyes of their cult. Within these so-called families, Nurgle has ensured an inversion of morals, reversing good and evil, healing and harm. To reject his teachings is seen as both foolish and sinful. Those who resist him are ungrateful or ignorant, while those who surrender are enlightened and blessed. In many ways, his victims become abusers themselves. They not only become agents of their own subjugation, but they also proudly spread the same infection that destroyed them to others. He exhibits signs of love bombing, a classic manipulative tactic wherein the abuser overwhelms the target early on with affection, praise, and validation in order to foster dependency. When his victims are at their lowest point, his gifts may seem like deliverance. He promises purpose, community, even joy, but his attention is conditional. Once trust has been secured, he shifts into domination, and the follower's identity dissolves into servitude, masked as gratitude. He and his followers claim all are equal in the eyes of the grandfather, but this too is a lie. The majority of his cultists will spend their entire lives dedicating every moment to try to please him, yet his attention is drawn only to the most esteemed champions. Even with these so-called blessed individuals, he utilizes intermittent reinforcement, a process of rewarding behavior inconsistently in order to deepen addiction and loyalty. He may grant a reprieve from pain or an actually useful mutation one day, only to increase their burden the next. Just like in real-life abusive relationships, this unpredictability strengthens dependence and causes victims to cling to rare moments of kindness as proof of their abuser's love. You honestly can't convince me otherwise that this is specifically the reason why Typhus has not yet ascended to become a demon prince. Man has done more than Nurgle than anyone else in history and is never enough. But I'm getting off topic. Nurgle's form of control also involves the redefinition of suffering. His followers are taught not to reject pain, but to celebrate it. In psychological terms, this is akin to Stockholm Syndrome, wherein victims come to rationalize and even reframe their suffering as affection in order to cope with prolonged trauma. Just as a cultist of Nurgle might refer to pestilent lesions as gifts or tumors as blessings, abuse victims may begin to interpret emotional or physical torment as signs of investment, attention, or even love. Perhaps most disturbingly of all, Nurgle's parental facade, the smiling grandfather, is itself a textbook example of coercive narcissism, a pattern in which the abuser positions themselves as a uniquely loving or indispensable individual, while simultaneously being the primary source of harm. His love is not unconditional. It is contingent on submission, glorification, and the eternalization of despair. In this light, Nurgle is not just the god of disease. He is the god of dependency, of internalized oppression, of the lie that suffering is the same as love. His horror lies not only in the physical grotesquerie of his plagues, but in the insidious way that he teaches his followers to love their chains. But in the end, none of this really matters.
Are we at
if the
the end?
grandfather has taught us anything, it's that nothing matters. Entropy comes for us all.
Oh,
there can be
punch
no
you in the-
redemption for those who have left the
punch
God
you in the
Emperor's
face.
light. No hope or mercy for the plague god's victims. With every exaltation from the garden, the stars shall flicker and fail, vanishing like dying lanterns against a gale of corpse wind. His wayward children will continue to flow like spoiled blood through the galaxy's veins, defiling world after world in an apocalypse of rot. They will not rest until they deliver to their master the ultimate gift, the fetid corpse of a once vibrant galaxy. There is no cure for the grandfather's madness. There can be no salvation. All that awaits is the long, slow unraveling of reality.
And it's
At the
kill
end of all
God.
things, as the last bell tolls across a hollow universe, the final sound heard echoing across a million dead worlds will not be a cry of despair, but the gurgling, joyous laughter of a triumphant god.
That's why you need God Slayers. This is why you need God Slayers. All right. Thank you, Kel. You're right. That was kind of torturous because this dude, it's like he just likes to hear the sound of his own voice. That's what it feels like to me. There was some great lore in there, but just honestly, only about 40 minutes worth of that is actual lore for Nurgle. Nurgle. But I did learn stuff. There we go. Another Warhammer Wednesday lore video in the books. Oh, I actually want to go to sleep now. I want to go to sleep. Yeah, lots of filler. A lot of filler. He could have been way more pithy. on that. He could have been way more succinct on the things he wanted to say, especially that last final segment there about abuse. Like, dude, were you abused? Is that why you felt the need to talk about that so much? Were you abused? Have you been mistreated? Because that's what kind of felt like. Didn't need that last part. A lot of parts there didn't need. A lot of parts could have been shorter. He could have easily cut 30 to 40 minutes off this video. Very easily. Very easily. That's why I like Arbiter Ian. He gets to the point. He doesn't derail himself too many times. And I'm sad that his Nurgle video was not as good. I would have liked to have had a better video for him. Anyway, all right, then we are going to wrap it up, just like you should wrap it up when you go near a Nurgle. All right, so tonight should be Space Marine 2. Let me check. Let me check my DMs. Let me see what's going on here. Okay, no Space Marine tonight. All right, no Space Marine 2 tonight. Unless anybody else, Alf cannot do it. Alf has some real life stuff. If anybody else wants to play Space Marine 2 tonight, let me know in DMs. Let me know in DMs. I want to play. It's 2 weeks in a row I haven't been able to play Space Marine 2. I need to play it more to get better, whether we're streaming or we're chilling out playing games offline. I need to get better at that game. I'm tired of being shit at it. I'm tired of being not as good at it. And I don't want to play with fucking randos. I want to play with the boys. So I don't know what we're doing tonight. I don't know. It could be more Tainted Grail. If we can get a couple people together, play Space Marine 2, then fine, we'll play Space Marine 2. Because Dermy can't do it either because of Dermy's new shitty schedule unless we start late. And maybe he'll want to do it late. I don't know. Anyway, so that's it. We're done here. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I appreciate everybody coming around, showing their support. We are making the push. It's been a good week. It's been a good week. But we got to keep going. We got to keep growing the channel. Great things to come. A lot of fun things in store. And also to make my life better. The better the channel goes, the better I have. Better life is to me with that. So your support is crucial, and I appreciate all you guys helping me out. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys either later tonight or tomorrow with another stream and another video. So until then, guys, take it easy. Oh, and I will not boomer it tonight. Turning it off right. I didn't click right yesterday.